Chapter 341. After hanging up the phone, Tan Xiao asked Shuijia about the deputy supervisor's information and sent it to the other party. Then he looked at Shuijia and said, "Let's head to Chengbu town first and wait for the intel. If the other party can provide us with the hiding place of the deputy supervisor, we'll directly rush there to rescue him. If they can't find it, then we can only find a way to figure out the actual situation in the Earth Cabinet factory. If we can bite that hard bone, then we'll ask for some interest first." Shuijia looked at Tan Xiao with a strange expression and silently nodded. With a curious expression, Tang Wei asked, "Brother, who did you ask to help us investigate? Don't tell me you know some acquaintances in Guangyang?" "I don't have any acquaintances in Guangyang." Tan Xiao shook his head and said, "But I do have some acquaintances in Fukang. Let's wait and see. I hope they can help us find the place where the deputy supervisor is being held." Tang Wei saw that Tan Xiao didn't directly reveal the other party's identity, so he no longer asked. In any case, it would be a pleasant surprise if he could get some intel from Tan Xiao. Chengbu Town, Guan City's second largest town, with factories everywhere in every corner of the town, causing Chengbu Town's economic development to rise rapidly. A large number of migrants led to a thriving and prosperous scene everywhere. The Earth Cabinet Factory. It was a factory that produced high-end furniture and exported it abroad. The factory had a total of 2 courtyard walls. The outer courtyard wall and the inner courtyard wall were 50 meters long, with a factory building in the middle where the workers made the furniture. Aside from the 2 office buildings, the rest of the factory buildings were also built with cabinets and furniture. In the past, the entire Earth Cabinet factory was very lively. Busy workers could be seen everywhere, and forklifts were shuttling back and forth between the factory buildings. But today it was deserted. Aside from the occasional barking of dogs, there was no other movement. On the roof of one of the 3-story office buildings, a big foreign man stood between the solar water tanks with binoculars in his hand, observing the scene outside the factory. Behind him were dozens of strong men. Some of them were holding guns, while others were wiping their firearms with cold expressions flashing in their eyes. "Ai Murue, what's the situation outside?" The big foreign man Topherson grabbed his mobile and asked in a deep voice after dialing a number. "The enemy hasn't appeared yet. Let's wait and see." "All right, keep in touch," Topherson said as he put the phone in his pocket. Then he turned to look at the strong man. There was some disdain in his eyes because in his opinion, these fierce-looking strong men were actually just silver spears with wax heads. They looked good but were useless. "Keep your spirits up. If the enemy comes and you don't have the courage to kill, I will personally cut off your heads and kick them around like balls." A middle-aged man snorted coldly and said, "Topherson, although our young master told us to listen to your command, don't be too arrogant. Even if you know some martial arts, can your speed be faster than a bullet?" Topherson grinned, revealing his white teeth, and said, "Do you want to give it a try?" "Humph." The middle-aged man wanted to give it a try, but he didn't dare to. He knew how important this foreigner was to his young master. If he fought with him, he would probably die a horrible death. 10 minutes later, the phone that Topherson had put in his pocket suddenly vibrated. "Is there a situation?" "Suspicious vehicles have been found in the periphery. There are a total of 4 cars and 4 people in each car. None of them got off. Some of them are using binoculars to observe the front gate of the cabinet factory." Ai Murue's voice came out of the phone. "Don't alarm them first," said Topherson in a deep voice. "There's an old saying in China, inviting the enemy to enter the urn. Wait for them to enter the factory, then we'll attack from both inside and outside. We must annihilate the enemy." "Topherson, I know you want to kill them, but the captain ordered us to keep them alive if we can catch them alive. Perhaps there are high-level enemy figures among them, so we can get some useful information from them." "I know," Topherson coldly said and directly hung up the phone. Near the Earth Cabinet factory, 4 SUVs were quietly parked on the roadside. In the front car, Li Xiaojia put away the binoculars and turned to the middle-aged man in the front seat, saying, "Inform the others. No one is allowed to leave the car without authorization. Chief Shui called and told us to wait for them to arrive, and then act together." "Understood." The young man in the front seat nodded and immediately grabbed his phone. Time fleeted by. Chengbu Town, flat-out skating rink. Jiang Xiaohu had been very free and unrestrained recently. He was the younger brother of the flat-out skating rink. Because he was good at fighting, and also helped the owner of the flat-out skating rink to solve a thorny problem, he was promoted by his boss to be the leader of the flat-out skating rink. However, today was the day of the weekly commission. He came back from outside with his 4 younger brothers and strolled around the skating rink, but he didn't find any guests. What's going on today? Usually there are so many guests coming to play. How come there's no one here today? Jiang Xiaohu turned his head and asked. A young man who had been with Jiang Xiaohu for a long time shook his head and said, I don't know. I didn't hear that it's closed today. Boss, look over there. What are those 2 guys doing at the door of the ice skating shoes storage room? Jiang Xiaohu stared blankly. When he looked over there, he suddenly frowned. He walked over with his 4 younger brothers and shouted, What are you doing? This is our flat-out skating rink's place to do business. You. Black muzzles were aimed at Jiang Xiaohu's group of 5. One of the burly men had killing intent flashing in his eyes as he said in a deep voice, Get the hell out of here if you don't want to die. Jiang Xiaohu's expression changed, whereas the 4 youths behind him retreated 2 steps back with a frightened look. Jiang Xiaohu took a deep breath and asked in a deep voice, I'm the boss here. Even if you have guns, I'm not afraid of you. I want to know what you're doing in our place. Also, where's our boss? Immediately, 2 people came out of the ice skating shoes storage room. The chubby middle-aged man was the flat-out skating rink's boss. With a bitter expression on his face, he waved his hand and said, Xiaohu, our skating rink is closed today. You don't need to work here anymore. Go back first. Jiang Xiaohu's eyes swept over the middle-aged man beside the boss. After a moment of silence, he said, Boss, we need money. You should give us the money today. Tomorrow, said the fat boss in a deep voice. Jiang Xiaohu forced a smile and said, Boss, I have no choice but to give it to you today. I owe Big Brother Beard money. He said that if I don't give him the money today, he'll chop my hand off. How about you give me some money first? I promise I'll leave immediately after I get the money. The fat boss looked at the middle-aged man at the side. Are they reliable? Asked the middle-aged man. They're very reliable. The fat boss nodded and said, Xiaohu has been working here for 4 or 5 years. He's a good fighter, and his big brother is also a very powerful figure in our Chengbu town's underworld. I heard that he has been following his big brother since he was a teenager. The middle-aged man nodded and said, Then give them the money. Yes, yes, yes. The fat boss waved to Jiang Xiaohu and said, Tell the 4 of them to wait outside. You come with me to get the money. God damn it, you're good at everything except gambling. Sooner or later, you'll die because of your gambling debts. A strange expression flashed in Jiang Xiaohu's eyes. He raised his head and covered his eyes. He deliberately revealed an awkward expression and said, Who doesn't have some hobbies, boss? Don't worry. I know what I'm capable of. I'll never get involved if the game is too big. A minute later, Jiang Xiaohu took a bulging envelope and quickly glanced at the back. When he found that the middle-aged man from before didn't follow him, he moved closer to the fat boss and asked in a low voice, Boss, who are those people? They even dare to carry guns. Aren't they afraid? The fat boss's expression changed and he shouted in a low voice, Don't randomly inquire about them. You can't know their identities. What do you mean, boss? Jiang Xiaohu deliberately showed an angry expression and said in a deep voice. The fat boss opened his mouth, but he recalled that he still had to rely on Jiang Xiaohu and his gang of little brothers in the future. So his tone eased down and said in a low voice, Xiaohu, I treat you as one of my own, so I don't want you to randomly inquire about them. Knowing too much will kill you. However, you're not an outsider, so I'll tell you a little bit. Those people are from Guan City's Sun family. They've kidnapped a guy and are interrogating him here. You also know that my backer is the Sun family. Jiang Xiaohu was shocked inwardly. Then ecstasy rose from the bottom of his heart. He knew that he had made a big profit this time. It was very likely that he would leave this small place like Chengbu town and be arranged to live in a big city. On the surface, he maintained his composure and said, Boss, you said that you're from the Sun family before. I thought you were just bragging. I didn't expect it to be true. Don't worry. I didn't hear anything from you, and you didn't tell me anything either. I'm going to find Big Brother Beard and give him the money I owe him. As for the rest, I can still bring my brothers to have a good night. Go. The fat boss nodded and said. 7 or 8 minutes later, after Jiang Xiaohu left the flat-out skating rink and sent away his brothers, he immediately dialed a cell phone number. Big Brother Huang, I'm Jiang Xiaohu from Changbu Town. Didn't the big boss pass down a message to our brothers to pay attention to the movements in Changbu Town? I found something in the flat-out skating rink. It's the Huang family from Guan City. Their people seem to have kidnapped someone and are now in the flat-out skating rink. The security is very tight. Yeah, I got it. Don't worry. I'll definitely hide in a hidden place and monitor this place. Okay, they're coming. I'll secretly show them the way. Thank you, Big Brother Huang. Quiet Night is infuriated. 3 chapters a day is practically her limit. In order to satisfy the needs of her brothers and sisters, Quiet Night has been working hard every day to finish her chapters. She has almost no time for leisure or entertainment, but there are still so many people scolding Quiet Night for being too slow. They even threaten to refuse to vote for Quiet Night. Quiet Night is a person of flesh and blood, not a typing machine. Tears. Chapter 342. The conversation ended. A look of ecstasy appeared on Jiang Xiaohu's face. He had already received an answer. If his source was correct, he would become a hero of the Huang family. Not only would he be rewarded handsomely, but he would also be promoted to a higher position. In fact, he was an intelligence agent of the Huang family in Guangyang's Guangguan City. On the highway that was more than 10 kilometers away from the Earth Cabinet factory, 4 cars were moving forward at lightning speed. In the third car, Tan Xiu was resting with his eyes closed. Tang Wei and Shuejie were talking about the situation in Guangyang. Ring, ring, ring. The mobile phone in Tan Xiu's pocket rang. When he took it out and saw the caller's name on the screen, he immediately picked up the call and asked, "Is there any news?" "Mr. Tang, the intelligence agent of our Huang family in Harbor City has sent back an important news. It said that the Sun family of Guangyang has kidnapped a person in Changbu Town's flat-out skating rink. However, due to the tight security of the other party, our intelligence agent couldn't find out whether the kidnapped target was Wan Hian or not. If you want to go there, I'll give you the contact information of that intelligence agent. You can contact him when you arrive." "I see. Thank you." "You're too polite, Mr. Tang. This is what I should do. Do you have any other instructions?" "Not for the time being. I'll contact you again if I need anything." Okay. My phone is on 24 hours a day." After hanging up the phone, Tan Xiu said in a deep voice, "Change the direction and search for the flat-out skating rink in Changbu Town. If the information is correct, the deputy director Wan Hian who was kidnapped is in the flat-out skating rink." Shuejie hesitated for a moment before she looked at the driver and said, "Listen to Tan Xiu and immediately go to the flat-out skating rink." "Understood." The driver quickly determined the location of the flat-out skating rink through the navigation. "Chief Shui, the flat-out skating rink is only 6 kilometers away from us. We'll be there soon," said the driver. "All right." Shuejie complied and looked at Tan Xiu again. She didn't know whether the information Tan Xiu got from others was accurate or not. If it was, then it would waste some time. But if it was true, then the person Tan Xiu had asked for help was probably someone with a powerful background. Who could it be? Shuejie thought to herself. Very soon, 4 cars were parked near the skating rink. Tan Xiu dialed the number that the Huang family's patriarch had given him. Not long after, the call connected. "I'm Jiang Xiaohu, who's looking for me?" Tan Xiu said, "Someone just called me. We are now at the flat-out skating rink. Where are you?" "I'm in the barber shop across the left side of the skating rink." "Where are you?" "I'll head over right away," Jiang Xiaohu said quickly. Tan Xiu looked around and immediately saw the small barber shop about 600 to 700 meters away. He said, "After you come out, turn right and walk about 700 to 800 meters. There are 4 cars parked on the side of the road. Please wait a moment." After saying that, Jiang Xiaohu hung up the phone. Without batting an eyelid, he greeted the barbershop's owner, and then quickly walked toward Tang Xiu's location. Tan Xiu sat in the car and looked at Jiang Xiaohu, who was getting closer and closer. It was easy for him to confirm his identity. He didn't let Tang Wei and Shuejie follow him, but opened the door and walked over alone. Are you Jiang Xiaohu? Jiang Xiaohu sized up Tan Xiu, and then looked at the 4 cars parked on the side of the road. With his sharp eyes, he could see that there were 4 men in the first car. I'm Jiang Xiaohu. How should I address you? I'm Tan Xiu, said Tan Xiu. Tell me about the situation inside the flat-out skating rink. Although Jiang Xiaohu didn't know the identity of Tan Xiu and the others, he had received orders from his immediate superior, so he quickly told everything he knew to Tan Xiu. Finally, he probed. Do you want me to take you inside? Are you familiar with the opposite side? Asked Tan Xiu. Yes, I'm here to watch the rink, said Jiang Xiaohu. Tan Xiu raised his brows and asked, So you also know the owner of this flat-out skating rink? Of course I know him. I'm very familiar with him, said Jiang Xiaohu. Also, I just saw the Sun family's people around the boss. If that's the case, then take us inside, said Tan Xiu. Don't worry, we'll guarantee your safety. Do you have guns? Asked Jiang Xiaohu in a low voice. As far as I know, the people inside have guns. I can see that there are silencers on those guns. Tan Xiu patted his shoulder. Then he turned around and walked back to the front of the car whispering, This is the place. That man called Jiang Xiaohu is the leader of the flat-out skating rink. He learned from the rink's owner that those people inside are from the Sun family of Guangyang. We should have found the right place. Auntie Shui, what's your plan for the next operation? Shuejie squinted her eyes. A glint flickered in her eyes as she said, Tan Xiu, I'm afraid we don't know the situation here as well as you do. How about you be the chief commander of this operation? Tan Xiu looked at Tang Wei, who just came out. Brother, Auntie Shui is right. Are you qualified to be the chief commander? Said Tang Wei. Are you at ease letting me command? Asked Tan Xiu. I'm indeed a bit worried, said Shuejie. I'm very good at running a business, but I'm not good at rescuing hostages. Since you have the ability to find one I believe your ability is more powerful than what I know. Tan Xiu was silent for a moment. Then he nodded and said, If that's the case, then I'll be the chief commander of this operation. We'll bring a total of 10 bodyguards and leave 2 to protect you here. I'll take 8 people with me. I want to go with you too, said Tang Wei quickly. I don't have any fighting ability, Tan Xiu. I'll only add to the mess if I go with you, so I won't go with you, said Shuejie. I heard that Little Wei practices taekwondo. Let him go with you. Tan Xiu glanced at Tang Wei and nodded. Then come with me. However, after entering, you must pay attention to your own safety. Since the other party has guns, I'm afraid it'll be very dangerous. With a serious expression, Tang Wei nodded and said, Don't worry. I'll definitely pay attention to my safety. Immediately after, Tang Wei called the 8 bodyguards to get off the car. Under Jiang Xiaohu's lead, the group quickly entered the extreme skating rink. Brother Tang, we'll be discovered by the people inside if we swagger in like this. I'll take you to sneak in from the side. I know the public toilet on the side. We can reach the skate shoes storage room by climbing over it. Jiang Xiaohu stopped in the corridor and spoke in a low voice. At this time, Tan Xiu had already released his spiritual sense and observed the situation inside. At the entrance of the skate shoes storage room, 2 burly men were vigilantly observing the surroundings. Inside the room, aside from a middle-aged man who was tied to a chair, there were also 3 men and a woman. The fat man should be the fat boss described by Jiang Xiaohu. As for the other 2 men and the woman, they should be the Sun family's people. All right, let's climb over the public toilet. Tan Xiu scanned the place with his spiritual sense and found that Jiang Xiaohu was right. The public toilet was located at the end of the corridor. The walls on both sides of the toilet were not sealed, and there was a space of nearly a person's height above it, enough for agile people to easily climb over. A minute later, the group of 11 people quietly climbed over the public toilet and was only 20 meters away from the skate shoes storage room. Wait for me here. I'll deal with the 2 people at the door, and then you'll immediately follow me. Tan Xiu said in a low voice. Tang Wei's expression changed. He grabbed Tan Xiu's arm and whispered, "No. Let the others deal with them. If those two guys have guns, you'll be in danger." Tan Xiu pushed his hand away and shook his head. "Don't worry. I don't need diamond to do porcelain work. It won't be a problem to deal with those two guys." After saying that, under the cover of the garden, he quietly approached the two men. When he was only 7 or 8 meters away from them, he hid behind a pillar. Taking a deep breath, Tan Xiu turned his hand and pulled out the Mitsubishi Army knife from his waist. After holding it, he strode toward the skate shoes storage room's door. Whoosh! An extremely fast figure instantly appeared behind a burly man, and the sharp Mitsubishi Army knife instantly tore the man's throat. In the next moment, Tan Xiu appeared in front of the other burly man. He covered the man's mouth and the dagger also tore his throat. His movements were as smooth and fast as flowing water. While his footsteps were extremely light, he grabbed the back of the neck of the burly man in front of him and pulled him in front of another daimyo who was covering his throat with both hands. Under his absolute strength, he pulled the two men's bodies and quickly rushed more than 20 meters away. Bam! Bam! The two burly men covered their throats with their eyes wide open. Blood gushed out from their mouths and necks, constantly splashing out. As their bodies twitched, Tan Xiu gently threw them to the ground. Tang Wei, Jiang Xiaohu, and the 8 bodyguards stared blankly at the two burly men twitching on the ground. Disbelief and shock flickered in their eyes. So easy, just like that, he dealt with the two guys guarding the door? Tan Xiu said in a low voice. "All of you follow behind me. When I kick the door open, immediately take control of the people inside. Remember, they are likely to have guns, so don't give them the time to pull them out." "Understood." Everyone nodded. Tan Xiu took out 2 pistols from the two burly men's waists and threw them to the 2 bodyguards. Then he strode toward the door. At the moment when everyone dodged to the side of the door, Tang Xiu fiercely kicked the door. Bam! The door was kicked open as the 8 bodyguards took the lead and rushed inside with guns and daggers. Before the fat boss, the other 2 men and 1 woman could react, the muzzles of the guns were already aimed at them. The moment their bodies froze, the daggers were placed on their necks. Quiet Night's update time is almost fixed at 8:30 a.m., 5 o'clock p.m., and 00 p.m. There will be a total of 3 chapters. Unless Quiet Night asks for leave under special circumstances, there will be 1 less chapter to update. However, Quiet Night will explain this in advance. Brothers and sisters, please don't repeatedly ask me in private when I will update the chapter. Answering the same question countless times is really a very frustrating thing. Also, please pay attention to Quiet Night, brothers and sisters. Quiet Night will update a lot of character cards, and will also update a lot of wonderful content. Thank you. Chapter 343. Who was the hunter? Who was the prey? Originally, the 2 men and 1 woman of the Sun family were full of confidence, thinking that they were the hunters who caught the prey. But never did they expect that they would turn from the hunters to the prey before they were able to get the information. Such a change in roles sent a chill down their spines. "Who are you?" asked the middle-aged man of the Chun family in a deep voice. Tan Xiu indifferently glanced at him and lightly said, "What's the point of asking this now? You're going to die anyway, so why not die a bit muddle-headed?" After saying that, Tan Xiu walked to the front of the tied man. He looked at his pleasantly surprised face and lightly asked, "Are you Wan Heen?" "It's me," the tied man said with an excited face. "I'm Wan Heen, the deputy supervisor of the Brilliant Group's finance department. You're here to save me?" Tan Xiu flashed his sharp Mitsubishi Army knife. Wan Heen's complexion changed as he cut the rope tied to him and said, "Tell me something. What did you say to them?" "Nothing." Wan Heen shook his head. "Kill them all." Tan Xiu nodded and indifferently said, "Puff, puff, puff, puff." The 8 bodyguards didn't hesitate. Since they were under Tan Xiu's command, they would completely obey Tan Xiu's orders. They killed the 4 people inside at an extremely fast speed. Tang Wei stared blankly at the 4 corpses lying in a pool of blood. His lips squirmed a few times, but he swallowed back the words he wanted to say. There was a bit of disbelief in his eyes because he never dreamed that Tan Xiu would actually order these 4 people to kill people. One must know. He always thought that Tan Xiu was just an ordinary person. How could an ordinary person dare to kill people? However, outside the door, Tan Xiu had just killed 2 guards with his terrifying skill. Now he ordered the 4 people of the Sun family to be killed. At this moment, he suddenly found that his understanding of Tan Xiu was really pitiful. Jiang Xiaohu was also dumbfounded. He never thought that Tan Xiu would be so ruthless and merciless. In just a short time, 6 people had directly or indirectly died in his hands. This killing god. Where did he come from? Tan Xiu patted Wang Hian's shoulder, turned around and said, "Let's go." The rescue mission had been completed, but there were still some fellows who had not been eliminated. Since they want to set up a trap for us, we'll beat them at their own game. I'd like to see what tricks they have up their sleeves. Tang Wei followed closely behind Tan Xiu and quickly asked, "Brother, you mean we're going to the Earth Cabinet factory next?" Tan Xiu said, "That's right. Since the other party has provided us with such a good opportunity, do you think we should miss it?" Tang Wei hesitated and said, "But we still don't understand the situation over there." Tan Xiu said, "I don't know yet. We'll know when we get there. If the enemy is too strong, we can leave immediately. If the enemy is too weak, why not take a gamble? I think that since the enemy wants to set up a trap there, they must have arranged for a lot of people. If we can get rid of the enemy over there, we might be able to chop off one of their arms." "That's true." Tang Wei nodded. Tan Xiu turned to look at Jiang Xiaohu behind him and said, "I'll leave those 6 corpses to you. I think you should be able to solve them well." "No problem," said Jiang Xiaohu quickly. "I guarantee that I can make those 6 corpses disappear without a trace. I'll absolutely not cause any trouble." "You're very good. I'll put in some good words for you in front of your big boss," said Tan Xiu with a smile. Jiang Xiaohu was overjoyed upon hearing it. He gratefully looked at Tan Xiu and said, "Thank you, Mr. Tang." Tan Xiu waved his hand and motioned Jiang Xiaohu to stay. He, Tang Wei, Wang Hian, and the 8 bodyguards quickly left the extreme skating rink. When they returned to the car, the worried Shuejie strode forward to greet them. She had already seen Wang Hian, and her hanging heart finally relaxed. "Aunt Shui, we've rescued them and killed the 6 Sun family members inside. Are we going to the Earth Cabinet factory next?" Shuejie's eyes were full of surprise as she said, "You did a great job, Tan Xiu. But since we've rescued them, we don't need to go to the Earth Cabinet factory anymore, do we? Our people are now being evacuated on a large scale. The earlier we leave Guangyang province, the less dangerous it will be for our people." Tan Xiu raised his brows and asked, "Don't tell me we don't want to collect some interest before we leave?" Shuejie frowned and said, "But that place is a trap. If we don't collect some interest and instead suffer huge losses there, the gains won't make up for the losses." Tan Xiu fell into silence. He found that Shuejie didn't want to go to the Earth Cabinet factory. However, he could also understand Shuejie's thoughts. After all, she wasn't good at fighting and killing. Tang Wei glanced at Tan Xiu and quickly said, "Aunt Shui, how about you take them back first? Tan Xiu and I will go there to see the situation. If there are many enemies, we won't stupidly rush to fight them. But if the enemies are few and we can take advantage of them, then we'll fuck them." "But, your first uncle?" Shuejie hesitated. "You don't need to worry about him. I'll take responsibility if something happens," said Tan Xiu. "Since the Yao family wants to fight with us in Guangyang and Fukang, I'm afraid we'll be suppressed by them if we cower. Eventually, we'll completely lose the territories in these 2 provinces." Shuejie pondered for a moment before she nodded and said, "Then I'll go with you. However, I need to report this matter to your first uncle. I'll listen to his opinion." "Report it on the way," Tan Xiu said. Red Maple Villa Complex. Dozens of stalwart men with grim expressions were resting in the villa's courtyard. There were also many people standing guard near the villa. Inside the villa, Tang Yunpeng was sitting in a room on the 2nd floor, quietly reading the information in his hand. However, he raised his wrist from time to time to look at the time shown on his watch. Ring ring ring, his mobile phone rang, causing Tang Yunpeng's complexion to change. He grabbed it and saw the caller's name on the screen. He immediately pressed the answer button and asked in a deep voice, "How is it? Has he been rescued?" "He's been rescued. But Wan Hin isn't being held in the Earth Cabinet factory, but in another place in Changbu town." Tan Xiao asked his friends here to help him investigate the information. Tan Xiao and Tang Wei have killed the people of the Sun family, who were holding Wan Hin. A total of 6 people were killed. Shuejia's voice came out of the phone. Tang Yunpeng was overjoyed and praised. "Well done. You must withdraw immediately. Most of our people in Guangyang have been evacuated. As the general manager of the Starlight Group, you must also withdraw immediately." "But Tan Xiao and Tang Wei want to go to the Earth Cabinet factory," said Shuejia. "If they're not there, then what are we going to do there?" Tang Yunpeng's complexion slightly changed as he asked in a deep voice. "They want us to beat them at their own game since we know that the other party has set up a trap there," said Shuejia. "If we can make the Yao and Sun families suffer huge losses, it can be considered as collecting some interest." Tang Yunpeng angrily said, "Nonsense. Our forces here can't compare with them at all. Since the other party has set up a trap, I'm afraid there's a large number of enemies there. They clearly know that there's danger there, but they still want to go there. This is courting death. Tell them to come back here immediately." In the car, Shuejia turned to look at Tan Xiao and Tang Wei. She forced a smile and said, "Your uncle wants you to go back immediately." Tan Xiao stretched out his hand and said, "Give me the phone." Shuejia hesitated for a moment before she handed the phone over. "Uncle, I'm Tan Xiao," said Tan Xiao. Tang Yunpeng forced a smile and said, "Tan Xiao, I know you've done a meritorious deed this time, but you can't be arrogant and conceited. The Yao family has already begun to lay out their plans in Guangyang a few years ago. That little bastard of the Yao family has brought back several experts from abroad. Our Tang family was caught off guard, and we're not their match at all. So you must come back now. Come and join me. We'll leave Guangyang for the time being." "Uncle, if you don't have a diamond or a diamond, don't do porcelain work," said Tan Xiao. "Since I have the confidence to do this, I ask you to support me. I can find someone to investigate the real location of Wan and En, which means that I can also complete the following matter. Of course, we won't act rashly. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you'll always be victorious. We'll definitely investigate the other party's strength before we act. If we can't investigate clearly, or if we're not as good as the other party, we won't act rashly and will return immediately." Tang Yunpeng didn't expect that Tan Xiao could actually say such words. He didn't know much about Tan Xiao. He only knew that his nephew, who had been living outside since he was a child, had some ability. But he was still a bit worried about the family's fight. "It's settled then, first uncle," said Tang Xiao again. "We'll give them a head-on blow if there's an opportunity. If not, we'll immediately withdraw." After saying that, Tan Xiao directly hung up the phone. Tang Yunpeng listened to the message from the mobile phone. He opened his mouth and finally shook his head with a helpless and wry smile. Soon after, he strode out of the villa and looked at the dozens of burly men in the courtyard. He then said in a deep voice, "Set out now and follow me to Changbu town." Understood. The dozens of big men immediately moved. Changbu town. Near the Earth Cabinet factory, Ai Murwei quietly stood by the window of the 3rd floor of a 3-story building, holding a pair of binoculars and observing the 4 SUVs. Behind him were 2 young men with dyed white hair and casual clothes, who were playing with daggers in their hands. "Ali, inform our men to surround them quietly and cut off their escape route without alerting them. Whether they move or not, we can't let them leave today." Ai Murwei turned his head and said in a deep voice. A bloodthirsty glint flashed in the eyes of the young man named Ali as he got up and walked outside. "Damn, I was so busy writing that I almost forgot the update time. What's even more embarrassing is that Quiet Night's writing actually made herself cry. Poor Guyan. Am I too cruel to her?" Brothers and sisters who want to watch the story can see it on the official WeChat account in half an hour. Quiet Night is working hard to revise and polish it _. Chapter 344. Time fleeted by. In the 4 SUVs parked near the Earth Cabinet factory in Changbu town, Li Xiaojia's face was as cold as water. When he received the call and received further instructions, a trace of a smile finally appeared on his cold face. "What's the matter, Captain?" asked the youth in the front seat. "The deputy director has been rescued. This earth cabinet factory is actually just a trap, and the person is hidden somewhere else," said Li Xiaojie. "The enemy must have arranged a lot of manpower here, waiting for us to walk into the trap." The youth was surprised. "Rescued? Who did it?" "I don't know. Chief Shui didn't tell me," said Li Xiaojie. The youth nodded and asked, "Then what should we do next?" "Withdraw." Li Xiaojie shook his head and said, "We can't withdraw. Chief Shui called me and told us to continue waiting here. He'll personally come here later and organize an attack on this place." "You clearly know that this is a trap. Why do you still jump in?" asked the youth, confused. "Haven't you heard of the saying that the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind?" Li Xiaojie said. "I'm afraid we've already been exposed after coming here. Therefore, we can only act as bait. We can only start to act after the people behind us arrive." Ring, ring, ring. Just as Li Xiaojie's voice faded away, his mobile phone rang. After picking it up, he exchanged a few words with the other party. The smile on the corner of his mouth turned thicker. "It's a call from the big boss. He's also rushing over with his men. Also, there will be 2 more people coming with Chief Shui. One is Tang Wei, and the other is Tan Xiu." The youth was confused. "I know Tang Wei, but who is Tan Xiu?" Li Xiaojie said. "Did you forget that the Tang family found their lost child some time ago? That person is Tan Xiu. As far as I know, he's very powerful. He can even save a vegetative patient." The youth suddenly realized and said, "It seems that our mission is very important. On one hand, we have to attack the enemy, and on the other hand, we have to protect the 2 young masters." Li Xiaojie didn't say anything. He actually had the same thought. After all, in his view, the Tang family's direct descendants, especially the younger generation, were all pampered people. It was not a good thing for them to get involved in this level of struggle. Perhaps the big boss personally brought people over because he was worried that something might happen to Tang Wei and Tan Xiu, right? Behind the earth cabinet factory, 4 cars stopped at the corner of a street. Tan Xiu looked at Tang Wei and seriously said, "I'll take a few people to scout the situation first. All of you wait outside. Let's keep in touch via cell phone." "I'll go with you," said Tang Wei quickly. Tan Xiu said, "We can't have too many people going in, or we'll alert the enemy. You guys stay here and keep in touch with the group that arrived earlier." I thought that since the enemy had set up a trap here, it meant that they also had people outside. As for our own people who arrived in advance, I'm afraid they're already under their surveillance. It's even possible that there are many enemies in the periphery. Tang Wei hesitated for a moment before he nodded and said, "Then you must be careful." Tan Xiu smiled, patted him on the shoulder, and quickly opened the door. Then he walked to the window of a car in the back, knocked on the window, and said, "3 people come out with me and sneak into the cabinet factory from the back." "Damn. I'll go too." "Me too." Aside from the driver, the other 3 people got out of the car. They were willing to follow Tan Xiu inside to scout the situation. They used to be soldiers and had undergone special training, so their skills were very good. However, they thought that they were very powerful, yet they didn't dare to compare themselves with Tan Xiu. They had seen Tan Xiu kill 2 people with their own eyes. His smooth movements were as smooth as floating clouds and flowing water, as well as those deadly killing moves. They admitted that they couldn't do it. A few minutes later, 4 people quietly appeared at the back wall of the earth cabinet factory. Tan Xiu released his spiritual sense and found that there was no enemy in the vicinity. He immediately climbed the wall and quickly entered inside. The other 3 people were also very fast. After jumping over the wall, they hid behind a pile of planks. "You guys wait here. Without my order, you are not allowed to leave without permission. I'm a small target, so I'll come and join you after I scout." Tang Xiu ordered in a low voice and quietly passed through a large pile of planks as he quietly moved forward. 4 or 5 minutes later, he observed through his spiritual sense and found several groups of enemies hiding in the relatively hidden factory, and the number of people in each group was 10. In addition, What made him frown deeply was that in the office building not far ahead, there were more than a dozen strong men with guns and knives. And on the roof, there were many people. What made his heart full of killing intent was that there were actually foreign big men there. Tan Xiu heard that the powerful character of the Yao family, Yao Xinhua, had returned from abroad and brought back several foreign experts. He guessed that the foreign big man on the roof of the office building should be an expert brought back by Yao Xinhua from abroad. The enemies in the office building and on the roof can't be dealt with in advance. But the 3 groups of enemies hidden in the warehouse can be dealt with in advance. However, if I want to deal with 10 people silently at the same time, I'm afraid it will be difficult to do. Tan Xiu pondered for a moment. While maintaining a high degree of vigilance, he quietly returned to the side of the 3 bodyguards. One of you go out and let the others come in. Remember to climb over the wall quickly. There's someone on the roof of the office building over there with binoculars looking outside. If he accidentally sees us, I'm afraid our raid plan will fail. A middle-aged man nodded and said, I'll go. 7 or 8 minutes later, Tang Wei and 5 bodyguards quietly came to Tan Xiu's side and hid. Brother, how's the situation inside? Asked Tang Wei in a low voice. I've investigated the situation inside. There are 10 people in the left and right factory buildings, said Tan Xiu. There are also 10 people in the pile of planks over there. Among these 3 groups of people, 2 of them are armed with guns, while the others are armed with knives and sticks. There are also dozens of enemies hiding in the office building over there and on the roof. We need to deal with these 3 groups of enemies, and then immediately notify the people outside to quickly come in and form an encirclement with us. No matter how many enemies the Yao family has arranged outside, as long as we can deal with all the enemies in the cabinet factory, we can aim our spear at the enemies outside. Brother, you investigated so clearly? Tang Wei was surprised. Don't tell me you used to be a scout? I'm much better than a scout, Tan Xiu said with a smile. All right, you guys follow behind me and pay attention to hide. Let's get rid of the enemies in the left factory building first. Let's go. A few minutes later, Tan Xiu, Tang Wei, and 8 bodyguards cautiously appeared outside the side door of the left factory building. Because the 10 enemies were hiding inside the factory building's door, Tan Xiu could use his spiritual sense to observe and enter the factory building from the side door. Then he would rush to the back of the enemies from the inside and launch a surprise attack on them. The 9 of you, immediately attack the others after you get close. Be fast. I'll personally deal with those 2 armed guys. If we want to complete the designated battle plan, we can't let the 10 people inside send out any warning information. Tan Xiu ordered in a low voice. Don't worry. Everyone made a hand gesture. Quickly, with the help of the furniture, they approached the 10 big men inside the factory building's door. Among the 10 big men, only 2 of them were quietly observing the movements outside, while the other 8 were sitting on chairs, cleaning their guns, or playing with machetes and sticks. Attack! Tan Xiu shouted in a low voice. His feet suddenly stomped the ground, and he rushed out like a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey. In just 2 seconds, before the 10 enemies could react, he had already dashed in front of the 2 men with guns. The sharp Mitsubishi Army knife in his hand left his hand and pierced deeply into the throat of one of the men. His body also appeared behind the other man. The moment he grabbed the man's head with both hands, he easily twisted the man's neck. Enemies. A big man jumped from the chair and raised his machete high. Puff! A sharp dagger pierced into the back of the burly man's heart. Tan Xiu's figure flashed and appeared in front of the big man with the Mitsubishi Army knife in his throat. The moment he pulled out the Mitsubishi Army knife, he stabbed the other big man's left neck. Puff! 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 Tang Wei and his 8 bodyguards were extremely fast as they launched a surprise attack on the big men. In just a few seconds, the 10 enemies inside the factory building were all killed. However, 4 of them were killed by Tan Xiu, while the other 6 were killed by Tang Wei and the others. Very smooth. Tang Wei smiled with satisfaction. It's indeed smooth. Tan Xiu nodded and said, but there are still 2 more enemies. I hope we can easily kill them. However, we must leave one of them alive in the 3rd place. I need to find out how many people the enemy has arranged to set up this trap for us. You mean, besides the ones inside the cabinet factory, there are also those outside? Asked Tang Wei. I've already figured out the enemies inside the cabinet factory, but I don't know how many enemies there are outside, so we must figure it out, said Tan Xiu. Brother, your martial arts are very powerful. Just kill as many people as you want, said Tang Wei. Leave the task of leaving one of them alive to me. Don't take it lightly. You and the others cooperate and try to eliminate the remaining 2 groups of enemies without suffering any casualties, said Tan Xiu. Shall we go to the other factory building next? Asked Tang Wei. Yes, Tan Xiu said. Quickly, 2 bodyguards took the pistols of the 2 enemies. They had killed 6 people in the extreme skating rink and obtained 4 pistols. Now they got 2 more, for a total of 6 pistols. Adding the pistol that Tang Min originally wanted to give to Tan Xiu, they now had a total of 7 pistols. Among Shuejia's bodyguards, 4 of them carried pistols. In other words, the 10 of them now had 11 pistols. Quiet Night courted death in all kinds of ways today by playing a game on her WeChat public account. Then 59 brothers gave her gifts. Then Quiet Night was played to death by them. Today, I must release 5 chapters. You won't die if you don't court death. Quiet Night finally understands the true meaning of this sentence. Chapter 345. Tang Wei handed a pistol to Tan Xiu and said in a low voice, Brother, I know your martial arts are powerful, but you can't dodge bullets no matter how powerful you are. Take this gun. We can't afford to lose it. Nothing can happen to you. Tan Xiu took the pistol and inserted it into his waist. He then nodded and said, Remember, when we sneak attack, try not to shoot if possible. Although these guns have silencers, many experts will still be able to detect them. All right. Everyone agreed and picked up the knives and sticks on the ground. 7 or 8 minutes later, the group appeared in another factory and successfully killed the 10 people inside. On the roof of the office building, Topherson frowned and threw the binoculars to the big man beside him, motioning him to observe the surroundings. He then sat down and lit a cigarette. No one knew why. He was a little annoyed, as if something bad was about to happen. He had experienced this feeling twice before, and each time, he managed to survive because he was alert in advance. Contact the others, and tell them to stay alert. Once the enemy attacks, it will be a battle to the death, Topherson instructed in a low voice. All right. A burly man took out his phone and dialed a number. Outside the factory, between the piles of boards that were more than 2 meters high, the phone in the hands of a burly man vibrated. He narrowed his eyes, looked at the number on the screen and answered, What's up? Keep your spirits up. The enemy did not attack during the day, so I'm afraid they will attack at night. If we don't stay alert, I'm afraid we'll be in danger of dying. I understand. The burly man glanced at the door of the cabinet factory through the gap between the boards and nodded. All right, that's it. As the other party hung up the phone, the big man said in a low voice, Brace yourselves, brothers. As long as we can kill more enemies this time, we will be able to kill more of them. When we return, young master will reward us handsomely. At that time, we can drink wine and eat meat, and play with beautiful women. All right. The other 9 burly men smiled. They even began to fantasize about how happy they would be after they successfully killed all the enemies. Pooh. A sharp Mitsubishi Army knife pierced through the back of the man who answered the phone. The moment he turned his head, he felt his vision blur. His brother, who was standing beside him, was punched in the head. Blood and white brain matter splattered all over his face. Tang Wei held a machete in his hand and fiercely chopped the right side of the neck of a big man who was sitting on the ground. Along with the man's blood-curdling screech, one of the men stabbed the man's abdomen. Suddenly, one of the besieged enemies realized that his companions were being attacked and shouted, There's an enemy! Pft! Before he could finish shouting, Tan Xiu tore open his throat with a knife, and then killed him with a punch. Throw away all the machetes and put away their guns. We'll use spears in our next battle, Tan Xiu instructed solemnly. All right. At this moment, all 9 of them, including Tang Wei, were sincerely convinced by Tan Xiu. They had witnessed Tan Xiu's methods of killing, and they had also witnessed the success of Tan Xiu's sneak attack. 29 people. A total of 29 enemies with guns and knives were all killed by them in just 20 minutes. One of them was even knocked unconscious and lying at their feet. None of them were injured, and none of them died. It was smooth. It was really smooth. They used to be soldiers. Some of them were trained by the Tang family since they were young, while the rest were retired soldiers who were bought by the Tang family and pledged their loyalty to them ever since. Nearly all of them had killed people, but they had never encountered such an easy ambush. They had never obtained such a proud battle result. "Brother, what should we do next?" asked Tang Wei. "Should we immediately notify the people outside to kill them?" Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "We can't for the time being. Let's go to the right side of the factory building. You guys ambush there. I'll sneak into the office building and quietly kill." "No way." Tang Wei shook his head and said, "Absolutely not. Even if you're very powerful, I can't let you take the risk alone. 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. There are dozens of enemies there, and many of them should have guns. If by any chance you fail, in short, since we're already here, I'll go wherever you go." Tan Xiu opened his mouth. Tang Wei waved his hand to interrupt him and said with a firm face, "Brother, I don't want my grandpa and grandpa to break my legs because of you. I don't want to feel guilty for the rest of my life. So you don't need to say anything." Tan Xiu let out a wry smile and shook his head helplessly. "Forget it. Then we'll quietly bypass." "No, damn it. The people in that office building should have found us." "How did they find us?" asked Tang Wei quickly. Tan Xiu frowned and said, "Didn't someone make a phone call before we killed those people here? If my guess is correct, someone also called the people in the factory building on both sides. Unfortunately, nobody answered. So it's not difficult for them to infer that something has happened to the people in the factory building on both sides." Ring, ring, ring. Just as Tan Xiu finished speaking, a bell rang from the pocket of the first man killed by Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu and Tang Wei exchanged glances. Sure enough. Tang Wei forced a smile. Tan Xiu pondered for a moment and said, "I'm afraid it's impossible for us to sneak attack the enemies in that office building. Let's retreat immediately and rendezvous with our men outside the cabinet factory's gate. Then retreat as fast as we can. If the ambushers outside dare to block us, we'll kill our way out." Tang Wei nodded and said, "We can kill so many of them. It's already worth it. But what about this guy?" Tan Xiu looked at the fainted man. After a moment of silence, he said, "It's useless to keep him alive. Just kill him." "All right." Tang Wei's saber rose and fell, directly killing the fainted man. Immediately after, everyone quickly left and flipped over the back courtyard wall to return to the car. "How was it?" Shuejia, who had been waiting outside, quickly asked with concern upon seeing Tan Xiu and Tang Wei coming back. Tang Wei wiped the blood splashed on his face and grinned. "Auntie Shui, with my brother leading us, how could we not do well? However, we didn't kill all of them. We only killed 30 of them, and were discovered by the others. So we retreated." Shuejia said in horror. "You've been in there for less than half an hour, right? He actually killed 30 people from the other side? How did you do it?" Tang Wei pointed at Tan Xiu and said with a smile, "Then you ask him." "A sneak attack," said Tan Xiu. "I've already scouted the area, so I'm very clear about the hidden enemies. That's why we worked together. Without alerting the others, we killed the 3 groups of enemies that were in hiding. All right, let's leave this place immediately and meet up with the people at the front gate." "All right." Shuejia still had a shocked expression on her face as she nodded. After a while, Shuejia dialed Li Xiaojia's number and told them to prepare for evacuation. When the 4 cars quickly arrived near the Earth Cabinet factory, Li Xiaojia saw the 4 cars and immediately ordered them to start driving without hesitation. Then they converged with the 4 cars. 8 cars. He left at an extremely fast speed. In the cabinet factory, Tofferson's complexion was malevolent, and his dense murderous intent made the dozens of big men around him somewhat apprehensive. Shame. He felt deeply humiliated because the subordinates he had planted here had been silently killed by the enemy without him noticing. "Report." The people from the other two groups have also been killed. A burly man rushed over with a fearful look on his face. Bastard! Topherson fiercely punched the board. Suddenly he seemed to realize something. He immediately dialed a cell phone number and shouted in a deep voice, "AI Murray, what's the situation outside?" "There's still no movement. The enemies are still in the cars." "No, that's not right. There are 4 more cars coming." AI Murray's voice came out of the phone. Topherson's complexion changed and he immediately said, "Don't stop them. Let them in if they try to enter the Earth Cabinet factory. You guys follow them. Let them leave if they want to leave." "Why?" AI Murray questioned. "That's not the plan," Tang Wei asked. "The enemy has sneaked into the cabinet factory. The 3 groups I've arranged, a total of 30 people, were all killed." Topherson gnashed his teeth. "What?" AI Murray involuntarily exclaimed. On the highway several kilometers away from Changbu town, more than a dozen cars were rushing like the wind and lightning. In the middle of the Audi, Tang Yunping's complexion was as gloomy as water. He recalled the words of the old patriarch just now. "No matter how big the price we have to pay, we must ensure the safety of Xiao and Wei'er. If worst comes to worst, we'll give up Guangyang and Fukang. If the Yao family still dares to fight with our Tang family in other provinces, then we'll throw caution to the wind and fight with them." Tang Yunping rubbed his temples. He suddenly regretted agreeing to Tan Xiu's proposal. He knew it. Tan Xiu was a capable child. He was able to struggle for a good career at such a young age without anyone's help, which was already very amazing. If Tan Xiu was given a few more years, or even more years to develop, perhaps Tan Xiu's strength would be even greater. With the help of the Tang family, he could hardly imagine to what height Tan Xiu's strength would reach. He could already imagine that if Tan Xiu sincerely treated the Tang family's people, then the Tang family's power and development would advance by leaps and bounds. Perhaps it wouldn't take many years for the Tang family to return to its heyday. At that time, which family in the country would dare to easily oppose the Tang family? The entire imperial capital, and even the entire country. No young man can be more outstanding than Tan Xiu. For the future of the Tang family, and to make up for the hardships this child has suffered all these years, I must ensure his safety even if I have to risk my old life. Tang Yunping narrowed his eyes and silently thought inside. Brothers and sisters, today's monthly votes are only in single digits. It's really too shameful. Quiet Night is going to explode today. Brothers and sisters, why don't you have some motivation? Chapter 346. While Tang Yunpeng was thinking about it, he received a call from Shuejia. However, after listening to Shuejia's report, his face was full of astonishment. "Are you sure it's true? Did you really get rid of a group of Yao family's men?" "It's true," Shuejia said. Tan Xiu personally investigated and personally led a team to kill 30 people and seize 6 pistols. "We're now rushing back. We can return to Red Maple Villa complex in an hour at most." "I got it," Tang Yunping said and directly hung up the phone. Then shock and ecstasy coexisted on his usually dignified face at the same time as he said in a deep voice, "Inform them that we won't go to Changbu town. We'll directly return to Red Maple Villa complex." "Understood." The middle-aged man on the co-pilot seat nodded. Tang Yunpeng turned his head to look out the window. If someone were to observe his body at this time, they would definitely notice that his body was slightly trembling and his fists were tightly clenched. 30. Our family was pressured by the Yao family step by step. Many of our men were attacked, but we only lost more than 20 people. Tan Xiu and the others killed 30 enemies in one attack. "No, it's not 30. When we rescued the deputy director, we also killed 6 of them. In other words, although our own people were caught, and the enemy tried their best to set up a trap. In the end, not only did we not get the information we wanted from the deputy director, but we also suffered a double loss." Good. Tan Xiu, the Tang family's fortune. What a blessing. After a long while, Tang Yunpeng took a deep breath. He couldn't help but smile as he quickly took out his mobile phone. However, he didn't immediately make a call. After hesitating for a moment, he put away his mobile phone. "I'll report to the old master after I thoroughly understand the matter," New Era Group in Guangyang. Yao Xinhua was lazily sitting on the soft sofa, quietly reading a stack of documents. This document was about the distribution of the Tang family's forces in Guangyang and Fukang. Now the Bai family's patriarch, Bai Yang, who was attached to the Tang family in Guangyang province, had been set up by him and temporarily arrested. Starlight Group had also been burned down. It could be said that the 2 fingers on the Tang clan's hand in Guangyang had already been cut off. Only by understanding the financial situation of the Starlight Corporation can we better attack the Tang family's money-making channel. When the Starlight Corporation is completely destroyed, we can also cut off a finger of the Tang family. A smile appeared at the corner of Yao Xinhua's mouth. Ring ring ring, his phone rang. Yao Xinhua took out his mobile and looked at the caller ID. The smile on his face immediately turned thicker as he picked up the call and said, "Topherson, do you have good news to report to me?" "Old wolf, something happened." Topherson's murderous voice came from the phone. The smile on Yao Xinhua's face froze as he instantly sat up straight. His muscles tightened as he asked in a deep voice, "What happened?" "The trap we laid in the Earth Cabinet factory was destroyed by the enemy," said Topherson in a deep voice. "They used a smokescreen to send a group of people to stay outside the cabinet factory. Another group of people quietly sneaked into the Earth Cabinet factory and silently killed the 3 groups of people I arranged, a total of 30 people. Also," Yao Xinhua abruptly stood up with bloodthirsty killing intent bursting in his eyes as he asked in a deep voice, "What else?" "Yao Xinyu is responsible for guarding Wan Hian," said Topherson. "I just contacted him, but no one answered his phone. I'm afraid that something bad has happened over there." "Damn!" Yao Xinhua angrily shouted. After hanging up the phone, he immediately dialed Yao Xinyu's number, but no one answered. When he dialed the number of another member of the Yao family, no one picked up either. After a long while, with an angry face, Yao Xinhua dialed Topherson's number and said in a deep voice, "Immediately take some people to the extreme skating rink to see the situation there." "I've already sent some people there. We should have news soon," said Topherson. Yao Xinhua punched the table and said in a deep voice, "Since the Earth Cabinet factory has failed, you have to hurry up and evacuate with your people to avoid any unforeseen events. I'll be waiting for you in Guan City." An hour later, Guan City Red Maple Villa Complex. Tang Yunpeng, who had long returned, stood outside the villa's courtyard like a javelin. For strong men around him coldly looked around. "They're coming," a middle-aged man beside him said in a low voice. At this moment, Tang Yunpeng also saw 8 cars coming from the direction of the villa complex's entrance. After the 8 cars stopped in front of him, the doors opened one after another. "Big brother Yunpeng." With a smile, Shuejie was the first to come to Tang Yunpeng. "First uncle. First uncle." Tang Wei and Tan Xiu also got off the car and called out. A bright smile appeared on Tang Yunpeng's face as he said, "Shuejie, you did a good job this time." After that, he looked at Tang Wei and Tan Xiu, slowly nodded and said with a smile, "Brothers of one mind can cut through metal. You 2 brothers did a good job, very good. Tan Xiu, I already knew that you were very powerful, but I didn't expect you to be more powerful than I imagined." "It's nothing. It's just a trivial matter." Tan Xiu lightly smiled. Tang Yunpeng couldn't help laughing and said, "Great spirit. It's a great matter in my eyes, but it's just a trivial matter in your eyes. Not bad, not bad. My Tang family has produced such an outstanding talent. I dare guarantee that my family will be able to return to its peak in the future." "For sure," Tan Xiu said. "Ha ha ha." Tang Yunpeng burst into laughter and then said, "You've all worked hard. I've already ordered people to prepare the food and wine. We're just waiting for your return. Come, let's go inside and talk." As the group entered the villa's courtyard, the bodyguards took the initiative to stay. Tang Yunpeng then led Shuejie, Tan Xiu, and Tang Wei to a side hall on the 2nd floor of the villa. "Shuejie, tell me the details about the operation," Tang Yunpeng impatiently asked after everyone took a seat. As a matter of fact, Tan Xiu is the commander of this operation. He's also the one responsible for gathering intelligence and leading the operation, said Shuejie with a smile. "Let him talk about it." Tang Yunpeng looked at Tan Xiu. I asked someone to investigate that the deputy supervisor of the Starlight Group's finance department was secretly detained in the extreme skating rink in Changbu town, said Tan Xiao. Therefore, we first rescued the deputy supervisor, and then rushed to the earth cabinet factory. After finding out the situation inside, we jumped over the wall from the back and killed some of the enemies lying in ambush inside. We could have eliminated all the enemies in the earth cabinet factory, but an accident happened, and we were detected by the remaining people. Therefore, we decisively gave up. We gathered the others and directly evacuated. That's it. Tang Yimpeng was surprised. That's it. Tan Xiao nodded. Tang Yimpeng nodded heavily. Although Tan Xiao said it lightly, he could feel the danger contained in it. In particular, they didn't even lose a single one after killing 36 enemies. He even secretly observed them just now and found that none of them were injured. This achievement, it was far beyond his imagination. However, Tang Yunda still had doubts in his heart. His eyes lingered on Tan Xiao a few times as he slowly asked, Tan Xiao, can you tell me who you asked to investigate the place where the deputy supervisor was detained? He's not someone from Guangyang, but someone from Fukang, said Tan Xiao. Who is it? Tang Yunda was startled. People from other provinces were able to investigate Guangyang's information. He felt that the other party's identity might not be simple. Fukang province, the Huang family's head, Huang Jinfu, said Tan Xiao. Tang Yunda abruptly stood up with a shocked expression on his face as he hurriedly asked, You said the person who helped us find out the information is Huang Jinfu? How do you know him? I don't know Huang Jinfu, but my people know him, said Tan Xiao. He has a deep relationship with the Huang family. Tang Yunda's lips squirmed a few times as a deep shock rose inside his heart. The Huang family. It was one of the biggest families in Fukang province. Although the Huang family's head, Huang Jinfu, was not involved in politics, but more than a dozen members of the Huang family were important political officials in Fukang province. Among them, Huang Jinfu's younger brother, Huang Jinming, was the number 2 figure in Fukang province. Tang Yunda suddenly realized the situation and asked in a deep voice, Tan Xiao, if our Tang family and the Yao family fight in Fukang province, the Huang family. The Huang family will unconditionally stand on our side, said Tan Xiao. Tang Yimpeng was overjoyed and hurriedly asked, Are you really sure? Absolutely, said Tan Xiao. Although I'm not familiar with them, the Huang family owes my people a big favor. Even if they can't help us with all their family's power, they will still use a lot of manpower. Tang Yimpeng took a deep breath and suddenly said, So if we ask Huang Jinfu to help us, will he refuse? I mean, Huang Jinfu has the ability to influence the political figures in Guangyang. First uncle, please elaborate. Tan Xiao said. Part of the reason why our Tang family can develop in Guangyang is because the Bai family in Guangyang is our Tang family's vassal family, said Tang Yimpeng with a nod. The Bai family's patriarch, Bai Yang, is a proud disciple of the old master. With the help of our Tang family, he has climbed to the 4th position in Guangyang. However, the Yao family started to move against us some time ago, and the first one they targeted was Bai Yang. Now Bai Yang has been detained and is under investigation. I'm thinking if we ask Huang Jinfu for help, can we rescue Bai Yang? The Huang family has influence in Fukang province, but it shouldn't be possible in Guangyang, right? Tan Xiao frowned. You're wrong. Tang Yimpeng shook his head. As far as I know, Huang Jinfu and the number 1 leader of Guangyang, Zhou Guangfeng, used to be classmates and good friends. Furthermore, the two of them have a deep relationship. Zhou Guangfeng married Huang Jinfu's cousin. Therefore, if Huang Jinfu personally comes forward, Zhou Guangfeng shouldn't refuse. Today, I present the 3rd chapter. The remaining 2 chapters should be finished around 12 p.m. Brothers and sisters, please believe in Jingye's character. Chapter 347. Tan Xiao was silent for a moment before he slowly nodded and said, Since the Beis are our people, then we can't just sit back and do nothing. I'll personally go to the Huang family in Fukang. Wait for my news. I'll go with you, Tang Yimpeng quickly said. Although I don't have any friendship with Huang Jinfu, I'm, after all, the governor of Shisu province, so I'll give him some face. How long have you been in Guangyang, first uncle? Tan Xiu asked. Tang Yumpeng stared blankly for a moment before he replied. Today is the 3rd day. First uncle, if you believe me, I think you should go back to Shisu province, said Tan Xiu. The Yao family only sent Yao Xinhua, but our Tang family sent you here in person. I think they think too highly of them. Since we and Yao Xinhua are the juniors of our respective families, then let us compete. You. Tang Yumping opened his mouth, but he swallowed back the words that were about to enter his throat. I'm not insolent, nor will I underestimate the enemy, said Tan Xiu confidently. The Yao and Tang families haven't completely fallen out with each other. Since they chose to act in Guangyang and Fukang, I believe they also have some scruples. Therefore, these 2 provinces will be the battlefield. If we lose, it means that we're still lacking. If we win, on one hand, we can strike the Yao family, and on the other hand, we can prove that we're stronger than the younger generation of the Yao family. Tang Yumpeng frowned and said, Tan Xiu, I don't know how much you know about the top families in the country, but the manpower and business in Guangyang and Fukang are very important to our Tang family. If we lose, the Tang family's strength will be weakened by 1/5. What if the Yao family loses? Asked Tan Xiu. If the Yao family loses, I'm afraid their situation will be similar to ours, said Tang Yumpeng. The Yao family is stronger than our Tang family, but the strength they invested here is also several times stronger than ours. If the Yao family loses, can our Tang family catch up with them? Asked Tan Xiu. After thinking for a while, Tang Yumping said, even if we can't catch up with the Yao family, the gap won't be big. As long as the powerful figures of the Yao family aren't stupid, they won't make a move against us for the time being once they lose here. What our Tang family needs the most right now is time. If we have more time, our family's strength will increase by a lot. Tan Xiu frowned and said, Uncle, you seem to be very confident. It's not that I'm confident, said Tang Yumpeng. The reason why the Yao family is attacking our Tang family now is to test the waters. Very few people know that the old man's illness was cured by you. Therefore, the outside world still did not know that the old master had recovered from his illness. A few days ago, the old man personally ordered the core members of our family to draw up a development plan for the next 5 years. Once the plan is successfully carried out, our Tang family's strength will return to its peak and rank among the top 3 in the country. Tan Xiu was surprised. How? A smile outlined on the corner of Tang Yumping's mouth as he said, throw money. Decades of accumulation, all thrown into it. Tan Xiu was shocked inwardly. He pondered for a moment and slowly said, let's not talk about how the family will develop first. Leave the war between Guangyang and Fukang to us. I dare not guarantee that we will win, but if we lose, I'm sure that I can make all the Yao family's people in these 2 provinces disappear. Tang Yumping stared blankly. All disappear? If all the Yao family's people disappeared, wouldn't it be equal to a lose-lose situation with the Tang family? Tang Yumpeng calmly pondered as various thoughts churned inside his mind. After a long while, he slowly said, all of you go out first. I'll give you the answer after dinner. All right. Tan Xiu directly got up. He knew that Tang Yumpeng didn't answer him now because he wanted to report to his grandfather, Tang Guosheng, and ask for his opinion. But Tan Xiu was confident that Tang Guosheng would agree. After all, he had already revealed a lot of cards in his hand. Soon, Tan Xiu, Tang Wei, and Shuejie came to the first floor. With a face full of curiosity, Tang Wei finally found the opportunity to ask, brother, you said that the Huang family's patriarch owes your subordinate a favor. Who exactly is this man of yours? At this moment, Huang Jie also pricked up her ears. You won't know him even if I tell you, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Just wait. I'll introduce him to you when the time is right. Tang Wei looked a bit disappointed, but he still didn't give up and asked, then you can tell me what he does, right? A person who can make the Huang family's patriarch owe him a favor is absolutely amazing. That's right, it's not Kongxia, is it? It's not Kongxia. Tan Xiu shook his head. It's a restaurant business. Restaurant business? Tang Wei somewhat didn't believe Tan Xiu's words. But he felt that Tan Xiu really didn't want to say it, so he could only suppress the doubts in his heart. Imperial capital, Tang family's ancestral residence. Tang Guosheng had yet to rest, and was enjoying the cool air outside the house. Aside from him, Tang Yunda and Tang Min were also outside. Yunda, since Xiao wants to go to Guangyang, then let's not stop him. It's not a bad thing for a young man to gain some experience there. I believe you've seen what he has done in the past. He's very powerful. Going through the family struggle will make him mature faster, said Tang Guosheng with a smile while holding a teacup. That kid is like me. He's a man of our Tang family. Tang Yunda nodded and smilingly said, if he wants to go, then let him go. He can rely on himself to fight for his career, which means he has a bit of brains. I hope he'll be able to help out in Guangyang province. I don't expect him to help, as long as he doesn't encounter any danger, said Tang Guosheng with a smile. The fight between our Tang family and the Yao family is like a storm of blood behind the scenes. It can indeed let him understand the cruel game between big families. I think Tan Xiao is very good. Tang Min said with a smile. I've sent someone to buy a house for him in Shanghai. Although he stayed there for 2 nights, I got the news that he didn't drive the 4 luxury cars I gave him to the campus. He's not arrogant and domineering like a young master of a big family. On the contrary, he's very low-key and gets along well with his new classmates. Tang Guosheng furrowed his brows and asked, did you send someone to investigate him? Not to investigate, but to protect him in secret, said Tang Min. It's just that he and Tang Wei went to Guangyang when the people I sent just arrived in Shanghai. The news was slowly learned by the people I sent to investigate. Tang Guosheng nodded silently. Ring, ring, ring. At this moment, his mobile phone rang. Tang Guosheng's brows raised. He took out his mobile and looked at it. He directly pressed the answer button and said in a deep voice, how is it? Have you rescued him? Dad, he's been rescued, and the harvest is also great. Tell me about it. Good. In fact, the rescue operation this time was led by Tan Xiao. Tang Guosheng quietly listened to his son's report. The more he listened, the more intense the astonishment on his face became. In the end, that astonishment turned into shock. Promise him. Tang Guosheng said decisively after Tang Yunpeng finished speaking. If that's the case, then I'll return to Xiusu province directly, said Tang Yunpeng. Tan Xiao will be fully in charge here. All right. Tang Guosheng replied. After hanging up the phone, the shocked expression on his face didn't dissipate for a long time. Tang Min and Tang Yunda looked at each other and immediately asked, Dad, what happened? Has the deputy director of Starlight Group been rescued? What did Big Brother tell you? The expression on Tang Guosheng's face slowly changed. When a smile climbed up his old face, he stretched his hand and heavily patted Tang Yunda's shoulder, sighing from the bottom of his heart. Yunda, you gave birth to a good son and gave me a good grandson. Did Xiao do something, Dad? Asked Tang Yunda with a confused expression. What exactly happened? Tang Guosheng burst into laughter and said, our Tang family was suppressed by the Yao family in Guangyang to the point that we couldn't lift our heads. We almost let go of everything there. I didn't expect that Xiao has just arrived in Guangyang for 1 night. Yet he has already done such a big thing. Quickly, he told them about the matter in Guangyang and finally sighed. If it was only this, I would never have agreed to let Yunpeng leave and let Xiao take over everything there. But I'm afraid that Xiao's trump card is much stronger than we thought. Tang Min also looked shocked and ecstatic. But after hearing the old man's last sentence, she quickly asked, Dad, what other trump card does Tan Xiao still have? Do you know about the Fukang province's Huang family? Asked Tang Guosheng. I do. Tang Min nodded. It's one of the biggest families in Fukang province. Furthermore, the Huang family belongs to the neutral faction and rarely participates in the struggle between the big families. Furthermore, the old man of the Huang family is still alive and seems to be 106 years old. He was a great hero of our country in the past. I once knew a member of the Huang family when I was in the army, Huang Jinming. Tang Yunda also nodded. That Huang Jinming you know is also a big shot with a high position and power. Tang Guosheng exclaimed. Even if he stomps his feet in Fukang province, he can shake the entire province. Dad, from what you said, it seems that Xiao and the Huang family have some relationship, asked Tang Yunda. More than that, it's a deep relationship. Tang Guosheng laughed. Xiao told your big brother personally that the Huang family's head owes a favor to Xiao's men. Just think about it. What kind of identity does the Huang family's head have? To think that he actually owes a favor to Xiao's men. I'm getting more and more curious about Xiao's trump card now. Tang Yunda and Tang Min stared blankly after hearing it. Then, a pleasantly surprised expression appeared on their faces. The Huang family. That was a very powerful family. Although it couldn't be compared to their Tang family, the odds of winning the fight between the Tang and Yao families in Guangyang and Fukang would be greatly increased if they had the Huang family's help. Xiao wants your big brother to leave, said Tang Guosheng with a smile. He wants to lead the fight between the Tang and Yao families. I agree to it. Dad, this is not a trivial matter. Xiao is still young after all. Don't you want to consider it carefully? Tang Yunda quickly said. There's no need to consider it. Tang Guosheng laughed. The Yao family only sent that brat, Yao Xinhua, as a core member. Since Xiao has the confidence, then let him toss and turn. Even if we lose the fight there, I'll accept it as long as he can grow up quickly. Chapter 348. Harbor City. Red Maple Villa Complex. When the appetizing dishes were placed on the dining table, Tang Yumpeng came down from the second floor with a faint smile. When Shuejia helped him pull out the chair, Tang Yumpeng waved his hand and motioned everyone to sit down. The food is very sumptuous. I happen to have a good appetite today. Do you want to accompany me to drink? Tang Yumpeng said with a smile. Tang Wei's eyes lit up as he said with a smile. Uncle, do you have some good wine? Any wine is good in my eyes now, said Tang Yumpeng with a smile. From Tang Yumpeng's words, they could hear his happy mood, and the smile on their faces immediately turned wider. Tang Wei ran to the kitchen and asked the housekeeper to bring 2 bottles of good wine. Tang Yumpeng looked at Tan Xiao and said with a smile, the old man has agreed to let you handle the matters in Guangyang. I'll rush back to Xiusu province tonight, so I'll leave the matters here to you. Don't worry. Tan Xiao nodded. To tell you the truth, Tan Xiao, it would have been good if we could have found you earlier. Tang Yumpeng sighed. It's not too late now, said Tan Xiao with a faint smile. Yeah, it's not too late now. Tang Yumpeng said with a smile. When are you going to Fukang province? Tomorrow morning, said Tan Xiao. I'll have a clear understanding of our Tang family's strength in Guangyang and Fukang. That's right, the Bai family's patriarch, Bai Yang, is now in the detention center. Who's in charge of the Bai family now? Bai Yang's younger brother, Bai Tao, said Tang Yumpeng. Tan Xiao nodded. After dinner, Tang Yumpeng left with the 6 bodyguards trained by the Tang family, leaving only Tan Xiao, Tang Wei, Shuejia, and Li Xiaojia in the villa. Aunt Shui, tell me all the forces in Guangyang and Fukang that belong to us. Only after figuring out our strength can I arrange the next step of the plan, said Tan Xiao. Shuejia nodded and said, in Guangyang, aside from the Starlight Group, we also have several small companies operating the clothing business and advertising company. However, the manager in charge of the clothing business, Lu Yuansheng, died in a car accident 5 days ago. It should be the work of the Yao family. Wei Yuan, who is in charge of the advertising company, was also attacked. Although he survived, he is still in the hospital. In Fukang province, there is a security company secretly established by the Tang family. Jinshan Security Company is not big, but the security members are all trained by the Tang family. There are about 120 people, and the person in charge is Li Liwei. In addition, we also have hardware and real estate businesses in Fukang province. On the surface, there are people in charge, but behind the scenes, Li Liwei is in charge. Following Shuejia's narration, Tan Xiao gradually had a clear understanding of the Tang family's strength in Guangyang and Fukang. In terms of business, other than the Starlight Group, the Tang family's other businesses weren't very big. But in terms of military strength, Jinshan Security Company was very good. In addition, Tang Yunpeng left more than 40 people in the villa, and half of them were transferred from Jinshan Security Company. The other half were members responsible for the safety of the Starlight Group. Tan Xiao said, Auntie Shui, please accompany me to the Bai family. Right now, the people of the Bai family must be shaken. We need to appease them. Shuejia said, your uncle has already. Tan Xiu raised his hand to interrupt her and seriously said, Aunt Shui, my first uncle is my first uncle and I am me. Since Guangyang and Fukang's affairs have been handed over to me, I have to express my stance to the Bai family. Just take it as, I'm trying to buy people's hearts. Shuejia's heart shook, and she nodded silently. At this moment, she was getting more and more curious about Tan Xiu, because she realized that the young man in front of her was not only very strong, but also very intelligent. Tan Xiu looked at Tang Wei and said, Brother, you stay here. Rest early but also pay attention to safety. Let our people be more vigilant. The Yao family suffered a great loss today. I'm afraid that they will be driven to desperate measures and come here to take revenge under the cover of night. Tang Wei nodded and said, Rest assured. I'll arrange it. But you bring more people to the Bai family. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, If my guess is correct, the Red Maple Villa complex must be under the Yao family's surveillance. If we leave with great fanfare, the other party will know about it. On one hand, Aunt Shui and I will go to the Bai family to appease them. On the other hand, we'll find a more secret and safer place tonight. After that, we'll withdraw from here. Tang Wei nodded and said, I understand. Shortly after, Tan Xiu and Shuejia left with only 2 bodyguards whom Shuejia trusted. They climbed over the wall of the villa's relatively secret courtyard, then stopped a taxi on the nearby street, and quickly left. At the Bai family's ancestral residence in Harbor City, Bai Tao's face was as gloomy as water. More than a dozen core members of the Bai family were in the ancestral residence. Bai Yang had been arrested, and although there was no final trial, they no longer had any hope. Originally, if something happened, they could still get help from the Tang family. But now the Tang family couldn't even protect themselves in Guangyang, so how could they have the time to pay attention to the Bai family? Second brother, we have to think of a way. Big brother is now under investigation. Not to mention that we have some problems. Even if there are no problems, the Yao family and the Sun family will fabricate some problems for us. We can't count on the Tang family for now, but we have to think of a way to protect Big Brother. Bai Bing's brows were tightly furrowed, and her tone was filled with impatience. Bai Tao shook his head and said, Let's wait. The investigation team wants to find out the result, but it won't be finished in a short time. Besides, they haven't announced it yet, so we still have time. I'll go see Tang Yimpeng tomorrow night. If the Tang family has a way, then we'll see them. If they are helpless now, then our Bai family will start transferring our property and family members. Bai Bing was shocked. Second brother, you want to give up the foundation of our Bai family? Bai Tao forced a smile and said, If Big Brother is really under trial, do you think we can't give it up? You're also a government official, so you should be very clear about what will happen to the rest of our Bai family after Big Brother is put on trial, right? At least 5 or 6 people in our Bai family will either be placed under investigation or removed from their posts. Or, they will be transferred to unimportant posts for retirement. Bai Bing fell into silence, and so did the other core members of the Bai family. They knew that what Bai Tao said made sense. This was the situation in the country. The top members of the family had been overthrown, and the rest of the Bai family would probably not be any better. Suddenly, a member of the Bai family said, Second brother, what if our Bai family turns to the Yao family? Is Big Brother? Shut up. Bai Tao's eyes burst with anger as he shouted in a deep voice, let alone the fact that we don't have any chance to join the Yao family. Even if we have the chance, we absolutely can't do it. Treachery is the most taboo thing for all the major families in the country. We're tied to the Tang family, and our Bai family won't completely collapse unless the Tang family is destroyed. Besides, even if we join the Yao family, do you think they will treat us well? They will definitely find a way to drink our blood, eat our flesh, and swallow our Bai family cleanly. The Bai family member's complexion changed, and he finally lowered his head in shame. At this time, a strong man strode into the room and said in a deep voice, Brother Tao, there are 4 people outside. One of them is Shuejia, the general manager of the Starlight Group, and the other claims to be a member of the Tang family, Tan Xiu. Bai Tao's complexion changed. He immediately got up and said, Come with me to welcome them. Quickly, Bai Tao, along with more than a dozen members of the Bai family, met Tan Xiao and Shuejia. However, since they didn't know Tan Xiao, they were somewhat curious about Tan Xiao. "Hello, Chief Shui." Bai Tao greeted. Shuejia faintly smiled and said, "Bai Tao, let me introduce you. This is Tan Xiao, the son of Tang Yunda of the Tang family. Big brother Yunpeng has given Tan Xiao full authority to deal with the problems in Guangyang according to the old master's instructions." Bai Tao's complexion changed. He didn't know anything about Tan Xiao's identity before. The Tang family's old master unexpectedly gave such a big issue in Guangyang and Fukong to a young man to deal with. Could it be did the Tang family want to give up these two provinces? Tan Xiao stretched out his hand and said, "Hello, I'm Tan Xiao." Bai Tao worriedly stretched out his hand as he squeezed out a smile and said, "Hello, Mr. Tang. I'm the second son of the Bai family, Bai Tao." Tan Xiao slowly nodded. Looking at Bai Tao's expression, he could guess Bai Tao's thoughts and said, "You're about the same age as my father. If you don't mind, I'll call you second Uncle Bai." Bai Tao stared blankly for a moment before feeling a bit more comfortable inside. He squeezed out a smile and said with a nod, "Nephew Tan Xiao has come here this late at night. May I know what's the matter?" "Shall we talk here?" Tan Xiao said with a smile. Bai Tao suddenly sobered up and quickly said, "It's my fault for neglecting you. Please come inside. Let's talk inside." Immediately, Bai Tao led Tan Xiao and the others into the building. After taking a seat in the hall on the first floor, Bai Tao quickly ordered the others to prepare tea. "No need to trouble yourself, second Uncle Bai," Tan Xiao said. "We came to the Bai family because I have something to tell you. After I'm done, I'll leave." "What is it?" asked Bai Tao. "I know that the Bai family must be in a state of panic now, but I can tell you that it's not necessary," said Tan Xiao. "The Tang family will never give up Guangyang, let alone your Bai family's patriarch. Since my grandfather gave me full authority to solve the problem in Guangyang, I'll do it well. There are some things that I'm afraid you don't know yet. A deputy director of the Starlight Group's finance department of the Tang family was caught by the Yao and Sun families today. I just arrived and not only did I rescue him, I also eliminated more than 30 of their minions. Similarly, give me some time and I'll also rescue your Bai family's patriarch." What? The complexions of the Bai family members greatly changed. They were well aware that the Tang family was forced to retreat step by step in Guangyang. Including their Bai family, they had lost a total of more than 20 people. Never did they expect that Tan Xiao would eliminate more than 30 of the Yao and Sun family's minions as soon as he arrived. Wasn't this too amazing? Today's 5 chapters have been released, and the monthly votes list has exploded again and again. Brothers and sisters, please look at the fact that Quiet Night is desperately updating her chapters, and support her once or twice. I'm deeply grateful. Chapter 349. Hope. More than a dozen core members of the Bai family suddenly saw hope after hearing Tan Xiao's words. This made their originally uneasy feelings calm down a lot. "Second Uncle Bai, please give me some time," said Tan Xiao. "I'll do my best to use my connections to rescue the Bai family's patriarch. Even if the Tang family loses the game with the Yao family in Guangyang, I won't give up on your Bai family's patriarch. I'll spare no expense to keep him out of prison. This is the worst guarantee I can give." Upon hearing Tan Xiao's words, Bai Tao suddenly felt touched. In fact, he had always wanted to get some guarantees from Tang Yunpeng, but Tang Yunpeng didn't say anything for a long time. This situation had actually made him feel a bit of resentment. But Tan Xiao's words had completely dissipated the resentment in his heart. "Tan Xiao, I'll keep your guarantee in mind. I'll also say something to you. My Bai family and the Tang family are inseparable. No matter what plan you have, my Bai family will support you unconditionally. If you want money, give it to me. If you want people, give it to me." Bai Tao said resolutely. Tan Xiao nodded with satisfaction. He got up and said, "Let's remember each other's words. It's a gentleman's agreement between us. For the time being, there's no need for the Bai family to act. So what you need to do is to be vigilant to prevent the Yao and Sun families from causing trouble again. We won't stay for long. Just wait for my good news." "All right. I'll send you off. Bai Tao nodded heavily. When everyone went out of the building's door, Tan Xiu suddenly said, "Second Uncle Bai, I'll have to trouble you to get us a car." We sneaked out of the Red Maple Villa complex by climbing over the wall. We didn't want to be noticed by the Yao and Sun families. Bai Tao waved his hand at Bai Bing. Immediately, Bai Bing turned around and returned to the building. A minute later, she handed a few car keys to Tan Xiu and said with a smile, "You can drive any car you like in this courtyard." Tan Xiu glanced at it and said, "That Volkswagen Tiguan. The price of this car is not high, and it will not attract attention." 2 minutes later, Tan Xiu and Shuejie quickly left with the 2 bodyguards. In the car, Shuejie asked in surprise, "Tan Xiu, since we want to change to a more secluded place, why don't you let the Bai family help us? They have been operating here for so many years. I believe that there are many hidden places suitable for us to hide in." "Auntie Shui," Tan Xiu said with a faint smile, "it's best not to let them know at this critical time, unless they're really on our side. Who can guarantee that no one from the Bai family has been bribed by the Yao family or the Sun family?" Shuejie was stunned. Then she looked at Tan Xiu with a different gaze than before. Low profile. Caution. She originally had some confidence that Tan Xiu would be able to win against the Yao family in Guangyang province. But at this time, hope rose in her heart. Moreover, through Tan Xiu's actions tonight, especially the pacification of the Bai family, she could see that Tan Xiu's methods were very powerful. At the very least, the originally restless Bai family members had been pacified. Even Tan Xiu had successfully bought people's hearts. "Where are we going now?" asked Shuejie. "Let's look for a more chaotic place in Harbor City," said Tan Xiu. "I'm talking about a place with a large number of foreigners, where people come and go frequently. Once we move, the number of people will naturally not be small. In order to prevent accidents, we must find a suitable place to hide." Shuejie stared blankly and asked, "Tan Xiu, you want to find such a place? Aren't you afraid that the news will be leaked?" "Don't be afraid," Tan Xiu said lightly. "As long as we pay attention and think of a way, we can hide well." Although Shuejie didn't know what Tan Xiu meant by think of a way, she still chose to trust Tan Xiu. After all, Tan Xiu's actions today had convinced her. "Let's go to Hongpa district." Shuejie ordered the bodyguard who drove the car. "What kind of place is Hongpa district?" asked Tan Xiu. Hongpa district is located in the southwest of Dongguan City. There are a lot of industrial parks there, as well as many small projects and workshops. There are a lot of foreigners there every year. The Tang family's clothing factory is over there. In recent years, although there has been continuous transformation and development, there are still a lot of dilapidated places. The flow of people there is relatively large, so it's very suitable for hiding. Tan Xiu nodded and dialed the cell number of the Huang family's patriarch. From him, he learned that the Huang family also had an intelligence network in Hongpa district. Immediately, he asked the other party for the contact information of the intelligence personnel there. Guo Senator, he was the owner of an internet cafe on Yeyang Street in Hongpa district. He had been running the internet cafe business here for more than 10 years, and had a complicated relationship with many gangsters here. His other identity was the intelligence personnel of the Huang family, and he was also the person in charge here. Guo Sun was quite excited when he received a call from the patriarch himself. He secretly decided that he must cooperate with the other party. No matter what the other party's request was, he would try his best to satisfy it. Soon, he received a call from Tan Xiu and told Tan Xiu the address of the internet cafe. Jingjing Internet Cafe. Guo Sun, along with 2 of his trusted men, squatted in the street corner near the internet cafe, waiting for the arrival of Tan Xiu and the others. Beside him was a calm-looking young man who was smoking a cigarette. After extinguishing the cigarette butt, he looked up and asked, "Big brother, who exactly are these people? To think that they are worth the boss's personal order to cooperate with them at all costs? I don't know." Guo Sun shook his head. "But it's the boss's order, so we must complete it. The boss has promised to give us a very generous reward if we do well. Maybe we'll be transferred to a bigger stage." The young man's expression changed as he firmly said, I'm not as good as you in terms of intelligence. But I'll be the first to act if there's a need. Guosun was silent for a moment before he suddenly asked, Changzi, where did the boss send you 3 years ago? How come you became so powerful after you came back? Don't ask, big brother. Xiao Chang shook his head. I really can't tell you, else I'll violate the family's taboo. Let alone you. I'm afraid I'll be killed as well. The Huang family's ancestral teachings are not only aimed at their clansmen, but also at us. You should be very clear about this matter. Forget it. Guosun forced a smile and said, Since you don't want to tell me, then I won't ask anymore. Xiao Chang no longer spoke. He recalled the inhuman torture and demonic training that year in his mind. That place was a holy land for training powerhouses, but it was also the place where a group of devils lived. He was in a dilemma. He wanted to go there again to receive training, but he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to hold on and die there. At that time, if he hadn't secretly fallen in love with that breathtakingly beautiful girl at first sight, he would have probably died in the training to prevent her from despising him. However, he was aware of the disparity in status between him and that girl. He knew that they were from 2 different worlds. He was like a toad, while that girl was a white swan. No, she was not a white swan, but a fairy. Honk honk. The sound of a car horn awakened Xiao Chang, who was immersed in his memories. When he looked up, he found that his big brother and another brother had already rushed toward a Tiguan SUV on the roadside. Are you Guosun? After getting off the car, Tanxiu looked at Guosun and asked. I am, said Guosun quickly. Are you Mr. Tang? That's right. It's me. Tanxiu nodded. You should have received Huang Jinfu's call, right? Guosun's mouth twitched a few times. He didn't expect that Tanxiu would dare to call his big boss's name. He nodded and carefully said, Big boss has ordered us to do our best to assist you. We'll try our best to satisfy any request you have. I need to find a safe place, said Tanxiu. Since there will be a lot of people coming, the place must be big and not easy to be discovered by outsiders. A strange light flashed in Guosun's eyes as he asked, Mr. Tang, can you tell me in advance how many people there will be? I'm afraid there will be more than 100 people at most, said Tanxiu. At least 40 to 50 people at least. Guosun thought for a while and said, I know a place that's very hidden. It's also very suitable for your requirements. But what? Asked Tanxiu. But that place is a bit chaotic, said Guo. A lot of workers, especially some hooligans and gangsters, often appear there. The boss there is a gangster leader called Black Dragon. He's very powerful. Furthermore, he also has some intelligence network. If his people find out, I'm afraid. I'll be worried if there's no gangster leader there, said Tanxiu with a smile. Let's go. Take me to that place to have a look. If possible, we'll stay there. Changzi, drive the car, said Guosun quickly. Xiao Chang nodded and quickly ran away. Tanxiu squinted his eyes as he looked at Xiao Chang's back and said, He's your man? His skill should be good, right? Guosun stared blankly for a moment, and then said with astonishment, You're really amazing, Mr. Tang. Big Boss sent Changzi to me, and his skill is indeed extraordinary. 7 or 8 hooligans can't even approach him. You're talking about his skills, but I'm talking about his ability to kill people, said Tanxiu. He has seen blood, so he has a vicious aura in his heart. Guosun stared blankly. He didn't expect that his little brother, who had been following him for nearly 2 years, turned out to be so powerful. However, thinking that he was sent by the big boss, he felt relieved inside. Shortly after, a car stopped in front of them. Tanxiu asked a bodyguard to sit in Xiao Chang's car, while Guosun sat in the front seat of the Tiguan SUV. Under Xiao Chang's lead, the 2 cars quickly drove to an abandoned factory. What are you doing? The old man guarding the door ran out of the sentry box and shouted. After getting off the car, Guosun came before the old man. He took out a stack of 100 yuan bills and stuffed it into his hand, saying, Grandpa, do you still remember me? I'm the owner of an internet cafe. You once went to my internet cafe and took your grandson out. Yesterday's 5 chapters have been completed. This chapter is the first chapter on August 6th _. Chapter 350. The old man guarding the abandoned factory suddenly understood and said, I know you. What's your name again? Guo. Guo-san. The old man nodded. He weighed the money in his hand and asked, That's right. I'm Guo Senator, but what are you doing here? Why are you giving me so much money? What are you going to do with it? Guo-san said with a smile, Grandpa, we want to rent this factory and renovate it for some time to do some business. You should be able to contact the private owner of the factory, right? Could you please call him over now? We can pay the money tonight if possible. The old man hesitated for a moment and looked at the stack of money in his hand. He finally nodded and said, All right. Wait a minute. I'll call him. A few minutes later, the old man returned to the front of them and said with a smile, I'm done with the phone call. The boss heard that you want to rent the factory, so he's coming over immediately. Are you going to wait here? Or, Grandpa, we want to go in and have a look first. Do you have any objections? Guo-san said, Wait for us to see the situation of this factory first. Then we can talk about the rent with the boss. Let's go. I'll take you there, said the old man with a smile. The factory was not big and was about the size of a regular football field. Tanshio learned from the old man that this factory used to produce furniture and home textiles. Due to the poor management of the factory's owner, he ended up in debt and had to declare bankruptcy. After strolling around, the factory's owner arrived. You want to rent the factory? Asked the factory owner curiously as he looked at Tanshio and the others. We've just seen the situation of the factory. It's not bad, said Tanshio. But how about the rent? Asked the factory owner. What are you going to do with it? Clothing business, said Tanshio. The factory owner suddenly understood and said with a smile, Our factory rent is at least 5 million a year. The area of my factory is not small, so it's reasonable for me to charge you 8 million a year. However, the business is bad this year and I'm in a hurry to rent it out, so I'll charge 6 million a year. If you agree, we'll sign the contract. If not, then I can't do anything about it. Tanshio stretched out his hand and said, 5 million. If you agree, we'll take it. If you don't, we'll look elsewhere. To tell you the truth, we've seen quite a few idle factories since we came here. The factory owner was stunned. He frowned and hesitated for a while before saying, 5 million. It really couldn't be any less. If you don't rent it, someone else might come to look at the factory tomorrow. Tanshio was silent for a moment and slowly said, 5 million is not out of the question, but I have 2 conditions. If you agree, we'll rent it. The factory owner hurriedly said, What conditions? Say it. As for the first condition, we still can't make a 100% decision on whether we will rent this factory or not, said Tanshio. Therefore, I can give you a deposit of 500,000 yuan first. If we don't rent your factory after 1 month, the deposit will be yours. If you do, we'll pay you another 5 million, and then we'll officially sign the contract. The factory owner thought about it and felt that there was no problem, so he said, I agree. But you have to pay me the money today. Tanshio nodded and said, No problem. I'll transfer the money to you online. The factory owner said, Then tell me the second condition. Tanshio forced a smile and said, To tell you the truth, we came from the north. We've been staying in the hotel for more than a week, and the hotel's hygiene is very bad. So we decided to live in the factory for the time being. The factory owner said with a smile, Since you've given me the deposit, then this factory is temporarily rented to you. If you want to stay here, then stay here. But this place is dirty and messy, so you need to clean it up. No problem. Tanshio nodded. Immediately after, Tanshio transferred 500,000 yuan to the factory owner's account through online banking. After watching the factory owner leave with satisfaction, Tanshio then looked at the old man guarding the door and asked with a smile, Grandpa, may I ask you, how much is your monthly salary working here? 2,500 yuan, said the old man with a smile. I'll give you 10,000 yuan, Grandpa, said Tanshio. You don't need to stay here for a month. You also know that we're going to live here and do business here, so we need to find some young and strong security guards. The old man looked hesitant upon hearing it and said, I understand you. It's not easy to do business here. But that 10,000 yuan. Please don't refuse it, Grandpa, said Tanxiu with a smile. Just consider it our compensation to you. If we really rent this factory in the future, I'll invite you back. Well, all right then. The old man nodded. Tanxiu took out his wallet and asked Shuejie for some cash. After collecting 10,000 yuan, he gave it to the old man and sent him away. Guosun followed beside Tanxiu and said in a low voice, Mr. Tang, isn't it too high for you to rent this place for a month with 500,000 yuan? As a matter of fact, I just need to use some means to give some benefits to the factory owner, and he'll lend it to us for a while. Tanxiu said with a smile. On the way here, I knew you were talking about this factory, so I thought about it clearly. This place is indeed good. There are also several large factories around, and the flow of people on the street is also a lot. It's a good place to hide. Upon hearing it, Guosun said, Then what should we do next? What else do you need me to do? Take me to see Black Dragon, said Tanxiu. Why do you want to see him? Guosun was surprised. That guy is not a good person. He's a bully and is insatiable. Once we have a relationship with him, it'll be very troublesome. Troublesome? Tanxiu grinned and said, I wouldn't want to see him if he's a good person. Let's go. Take me to see him. You should know where he is, right? Guosun said. Almost every night Black Dragon would stay in his bar. I'll take you there. Black Dragon Bar. As the two cars parked on the street near the bar, Tanxiu said, Auntie Shui, you stay here and wait for me. I have to get rid of this hidden danger before we can set up camp here. You want to? Shuejie was surprised. I won't kill him. Tanxiu shook his head. I just want him to work for me. Is his background clean? Shuejie hesitated. Tanxiu looked at Guosenior. Black Dragon can mix in this area like a fish in the water because he can fight and fight. He has been fighting for more than 20 years, said Guosun quickly. He's a gangster leader with a very clear background. Tanxiu nodded after hearing it. He took Guosun and Xiaochang out of the car and walked toward Black Dragon Bar. As for the other person brought by Guosun, he stayed in the car. The Black Dragon Bar was very lively at night. The deafening metal music made people's eardrums ache faintly. Inside the bar, aside from countless people crazily twisting, there were also many people drinking and flirting with girls. Yo, isn't this Brother Gua? What kind of wind blew you here today? A young man with dyed blonde hair and earrings came over with a smile. Take me to see Black Dragon. I want to discuss a deal with him, said Guosun aloud. The young man was startled. He looked at Tanxiu and Xiaochang, then waved his arm and loudly said, Come with me. Brother Long is having fun inside. There were more than a dozen private rooms inside the bar. In the largest private room, Black Dragon was hugging a beautiful girl he had just flirted with, singing into the microphone. From time to time, the beautiful girl would pick up a piece of fruit and stuff it into Black Dragon's mouth. On the other sofa, Black Dragon's two right-hand men and trusted subordinates were also hugging women, gulping down wine. Brother Long, Guosun wants to see you. He said he wants to discuss a deal with you. The blonde youth pushed the door and came in, whispering in Black Dragon's ear. Black Dragon stared blankly and asked doubtfully, Guosun? Where did he come from? Brother Long, did you forget that he's the owner of Jingjing Internet Cafe? Said the blonde. Black Dragon furrowed his brows and a trace of dread flashed in his eyes. He once had dealings with Guosenator more than a year ago. One of his men came to Jingjing Internet Cafe to collect protection fees, and was beaten by Guosen's men. Later, he and Guosun met in private, and also had a fight. Dozens of his men were beaten miserably by Guosun and his men. If he hadn't taken out his gun at the end, Guosun probably wouldn't have lowered his head. However, Guosun took out a sum of money in that incident, and the enmity between the two sides was resolved. But both sides had always minded their own business and minded their own business. Black Dragon patted the beautiful girl next to him and loudly said, You guys go out and play first. I'll call you for a drink after I'm done with my business. All right. The three girls got up and walked outside. A moment later, Tanxiu, along with Guosun and Xiaochang, entered the box. He saw Hei Long sitting on the sofa with his legs crossed, a cigarette dangling from the corner of his mouth, and a tattoo all over his body. Tang Xiu lightly smiled and said, "You're Hei Long." Black Dragon glanced at Tan Xiu before his eyes fell on Guasun and lightly said, "Guasun, is this your little brother? Don't you know the rules?" Guasun took a step back and stood behind Tang Xiu without saying anything. Black Dragon stared blankly for a moment. He looked at Guasun and then at Tan Xiu. He then nodded and said, "I see. So you're the one. What's your name, brother? Which street do you work in?" Tan Xiu waved to the other two big men on the sofa. After they got Black Dragon's signal to stand up, Tan Xiu walked to the sofa and sat down. He took out a cigarette and lit it up. After taking a puff, he said, "My name is Tan Xiu. You don't need to know where I'm from. I want to discuss a deal with you. Everyone will be happy if the deal goes through. If not, I'll leave immediately." Black Dragon squinted his eyes and asked, "What deal?" This is the second chapter of today's guarantee. The third and fourth chapters will be decided at 12 p.m. based on various data. Brothers and sisters, keep it up _. Chapter 351. This deal is related to your life, said Tan Xiu. In other words, if you follow me, you can live. You can also refuse and die a miserable death. Then I'll support another person to be the boss here. Puffed. Hei Long looked at Tan Xiu as though he was looking at a fool and couldn't help laughing. He had heard a lot of jokes before, but none of them were as funny as this one. "I say, little brother, are you stupid or what? I, Hei Long, can get whatever I want here. I'm the local tyrant, so why should I follow you? Who the hell do you think you are?" Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and asked, "So you don't want to?" The smile on Hei Long's face quickly disappeared. A chilling light flashed in his eyes as he shouted in a deep voice, "Scram! Go back to where you came from. I'm in a good mood today, so I won't haggle with you." Tan Xiu pointed to the two men next to Hei Long and lightly asked, "Are they your men?" "Yes," replied Hei Long with a cold face. Tan Xiu nodded. The moment the sharp Mitsubishi Army knife appeared in his hand, his figure flashed and disappeared. A glaring cold light flashed and the two big men's bodies stiffened. Their hands quickly grabbed their throats. Blood. Spurt. Their eyes were wide open, bursting with disbelief. They could feel that their lives were quickly fading away. Standing next to Guasun, Xiaochang's body slightly trembled, and his pupils instantly contracted. Tang Xiu's speed made the hairs on his body stand up. Fast. It was really too fast. From the moment Tan Xiu's buttocks left the sofa, dashed to the front of Hei Long's men, and then returned to the sofa, it was definitely less than 2 seconds. This speed. It was too terrifying. Xiaochang thought that he was very fast, but he was horrified to find that his speed was nothing compared to Tan Xiu's. If Tan Xiu wanted to kill him, he wouldn't be able to resist at all, and would probably be killed in an instant. Hei Long abruptly got up and pulled out the pistol from his waist. His complexion drastically changed as he pointed the muzzle at Tang Xiu. Looking at the miserable appearance of his two men with their throats slit, his heart fiercely twitched a few times, and he roared sternly, "Who the fuck are you?" In his heart. It also gave birth to a deep fear, because he didn't even see Tan Xiu's movements clearly. In almost an instant, two of his subordinates, who were good at fighting, had their throats slit by Tan Xiu. At this speed, if Tan Xiu had wanted to kill him just now, he would have ended up like his two subordinates. His throat would have been slit, and he would soon become a corpse. "Do you really think the gun in your hand is a threat to me?" Tan Xiu shook his head. "Put it away. You still have one more chance. Submit to me and become one of my people. You can live, and perhaps you'll have some great fortune in the future. But if you don't agree, I don't mind sending you to accompany your two brothers to hell." Recalling Tang Xiu's move just now, Hei Long suddenly came to a realization. This young man's speed was so terrifying that it was not impossible for him to dodge the bullet he shot. In an instant, he watched his two men fall to the ground. In just a few seconds, they stopped breathing and died completely. "You haven't chosen yet," Tan Xiu lightly said. "Live or die, it's your choice." Hei Long's wrist trembled, and he silently put the gun back to his waist. His eyes were full of viciousness as he looked at Tan Xiao and asked in a deep voice, "You killed my brothers. Aren't you afraid that I'll submit to you? But I'll crazily retaliate against you later?" "You won't." Tan Xiao shook his head. "You may be ruthless and merciless, but you're also afraid of death. I can crush you as easily as crushing an ant if I want to. Even if I don't do it myself, my men can easily kill you. Of course, that includes all your brothers. It's enough to wash them in blood overnight." Hei Long pointed to Guasun and asked in a deep voice, "You mean them?" "They're not my men," Tan Xiao lightly said. "Although the big boss behind them can also easily crush you, they're not people here and they're too lazy to do it. It's also because of a special reason that I'm looking for you. Else, I won't even bother to look at you even if you're 100 times stronger, let alone your power." Hei Long's breath stagnated. He pondered for a while and then seriously said, "I must know your identity, else I can't follow you." Tan Xiao was silent for a moment and then slowly said, "Actually, with your identity, even if I tell you, I'm afraid a nobody at your level won't know who I am. But I can tell you something you should know so that you can work for me. Have you ever watched the news? It's the CTV one." Hei Long shook his head and said, "I don't care about national affairs, so why would I watch it? But I watched it when I was a kid." "It's fine if you watched it when you were a kid," Tan Xiao said. "I'm from the imperial capital, and Tang Guosheng is my grandfather." "The imperial capital? Tang Guosheng?" Hei Long stared blankly for a moment before his eyes suddenly turned as big as a bell. His body swayed, and he slumped down on the sofa. How could he not know Tang Guosheng? He was a bigwig with a high position and power in the country. Tan Xiao let out a smile and said, "It seems that you know my grandfather's identity. Although I don't rely on him much, it's still useful to use him to prove my background. How about it? Do you want to follow me?" "I do." Hei Long jumped up from the sofa as if he had forgotten that Tan Xiao had just killed 2 of his trusted men. With an excited face he said, "I'm very willing." He realized that he seemed to have hit the jackpot. The young master of the imperial capital. Countless people wanted to curry favor with him but couldn't. Although he didn't know why Tan Xiao, a dignified young master of a big family, came to a small place like Guan City, he didn't want to let go of even the slightest chance. "Aren't you afraid that I'll lie to you?" asked Tan Xiao with a smile. "I don't think you need to lie to me," said Hei Long seriously. "After all, you won't lie to me if you want me to do things for you. Moreover, lies are easily exposed. If I had the intention, I would be able to find out the truth with a little investigation." "It seems that you're really smart," Tan Xiao said with a smile. "No wonder you're able to mix well here. Tell your men to clean up these 2 corpses. And then come with me." "Where to?" asked Hei Long. "You can ask what you need to ask, but you don't need to ask what you shouldn't," said Tan Xiao. "Anyways, just remember to carry out my orders. If you do well, you'll have great development in the future. You don't need to be a local tyrant here anymore. If you don't do well, I'll directly give you up." Hei Long's expression turned solemn as he respectfully said, "I'll keep it in mind." 2 minutes later, Hei Long found several of his trusted men, and asked them to secretly box up the 2 corpses, and then secretly destroy the corpses. After finishing, he respectfully came before Tan Xiao. "Let's go," said Tan Xiao lightly. After they left the Hei Long bar, Tan Xiao looked at Guasun and said, "I need to borrow your intelligence network for the time being. Help me monitor Hongpa district. Contact me directly if any suspicious person comes." Guasun forced a smile and said, "Mr. Tang, there are too many suspicious people in Hongpa district. Shouldn't we have a target?" Tan Xiao was silent for a moment before he lightly said, "People from the Sun family in Guangyang." "The Sun family?" A glint flashed in Guasun's eyes as he said, "I need to report this matter to the big boss. After all, my rank is very low and I don't know much about the Sun family in Guangyang. I need a higher rank member to cooperate with me." "You can report it to me," said Tan Xiao. "I'll personally visit your big boss tomorrow." "All right." Guasun nodded and said, "Leave your car to us," Tan Xiao said. "Also help me clean up some rooms in the factory, and buy some daily necessities while you're at it. Remember, Don't attract others' attention. No problem, said Guasun with a smile. Tan Xiu waved to He Long, motioning him and another bodyguard to sit in another car, and then entered the Tiguan SUV. He Long's mood at this time was very complicated. He was nervous and excited. He didn't know what fate would be waiting for him in the future, but he wanted to gamble. If he gambled right, he would have a bright future. But if he gambled wrong, the worst that could happen to him was death. After all, if he refused Tan Xiu today, he was afraid that he would have become a corpse. Red Maple Villa Complex. When the two cars stopped a kilometer away from the Red Maple Villa Complex, Tan Xiu and Shuejie discussed and decided to evacuate tonight and rush to Hongpa District under the cover of the night. Auntie Shui, wait for me here. I'll go inside and arrange it. All right. Tan Xiu climbed over the wall alone and quietly returned to the villa. Tang Wei didn't rest at this time. He was worried about Tan Xiu's safety, so he sat by the window on the second floor and smoked. Tang Wei was slightly startled when he saw a figure climbing over the wall and entering the courtyard. More than a dozen of his men quickly pulled out their guns and aimed at the person. It's me, Tan Xiu said in a deep voice. When the big men saw Tan Xiu clearly, they immediately put away their guns and scattered to the side. Everyone pack up. We're leaving tonight, said Tan Xiu in a deep voice. Understood. The big men complied one after another. When Tan Xiu came to the villa, Tang Wei had already rushed down the stairs. Brother, how's the matter going? It's all done, said Tan Xiu. I've met the Bai family's people and found a place for us to stay for the time being. Pack up and we'll leave later. I'm at ease with you handling it. Tang Wei nodded. A curved arc outlined on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth as he said with a smile. Do you want to do one more job before you leave? How? Tang Wei was confused. Tan Xiu pointed to the villa complex's gate and said, If my guess is correct, this villa must be under surveillance. If I'm not mistaken, our villa must be under surveillance. When we left before, we climbed over the wall to avoid being discovered. But we can't do it without a car. Therefore, we need to clean up the enemies monitoring us. It's too difficult. Tang Wei shook his head. We're in the light while the people monitoring us are in the dark. It's very difficult to find them. This is today's third update. It's also the one with the explosive monthly votes. Come on, brothers and sisters. Quiet Night is waiting for you to continue exploding. Chapter 352. Tan Xiu's spiritual sense was like a cheat in games. He could observe any scenery within a radius of several hundred meters under the cover of his spiritual sense. Therefore, as long as he spent some time and circled around the villa complex, he would be able to find suspicious people. However, the binoculars were too effective now. If the monitoring distance was too far, there might be some fish that slipped through the net. Even if it's difficult, we still have to search. With a serious expression, Tan Xiu said seriously, As for when we leave, I'll personally bring up the rear. If there are any suspicious people following us, we'll clean them up. Tang Wei nodded and said, It's good to be cautious. What are we going to do? Let's circle around the villa complex for a while, said Tan Xiu. Let's just go out and relax. If we find any suspicious people, we'll figure out their identities. If not, we'll come back and arrange a retreat. All right. Tang Wei touched the pistol on his waist and nodded. Immediately after, the duo then walked out of the villa's courtyard and went straight to the villa complex's entrance. Tan Xiu had been releasing his spiritual sense to observe the surrounding situation. What Tan Xiu didn't expect was that his spiritual sense had already captured the enemy's tracks from the villa's entrance. It was on the roof of another villa only a few hundred meters away from the villa. Two youths holding binoculars had been quietly observing the movements of the villa. However, Tan Xiu didn't act rashly. After coming outside the villa complex with Tang Wei, the duo pretended to go out for a stroll, smoking cigarettes and blowing out smoke rings from time to time. If I remember correctly, there's an SUV parked on the roadside on the left in front of us. It's been parked there for several hours, right? When we came back from Chengbu town, I saw it parked there. The dim yellow night couldn't block Tan Xiu's keen eyes. When he came back from Chengbu town, Although he found the SUV, he glanced at it and didn't find anyone inside. But now there were two men in the car. One of them was sitting in the back seat, smoking quietly with the window open. Tang Wei's eyesight wasn't as sharp as Tan Xiu's, so he didn't see anyone inside the SUV since they were 300 to 400 meters away. He shook his head and said, "It's normal for a car to be parked on the roadside. I didn't notice that car when we came back." Tan Xiu said, "It's normal to have a car parked on the side of the road, but what if there are people in the car?" Tang Wei's expression slightly changed as he said, "I'm afraid the problem won't be simple if someone stays in the car for several hours at this critical juncture. Let's go and take a look," Tan Xiu said as he walked towards the car. At this moment, in the driver's seat of the off-road vehicle, a young man was looking at the entrance of the villa complex. He had noticed Tan Xiu and Tang Wei the moment they stepped out of the villa complex's entrance. To his surprise, it was already so late, yet those two fellows actually came out for a stroll. When he noticed that the two men were coming in his direction, he immediately turned his head and spoke to the man in the back seat, brother who, according to the intelligence, one of the two fellows who came out of the villa complex is Tang Wei, a descendant of the Tang family. They're courting death. The man pulled out his pistol as a cold light flashed in his eyes. The young man was surprised. "Brother who, our mission is to monitor the Tang family in the Maple Villa complex. If we kill them now, won't we be punished by the young master?" The man sneered. "Don't worry. If we can kill a direct descendant of the Tang family, not only will the young master not punish us, I'm afraid he'll even reward us. It's not like you don't know the news from Chengbu town. We've lost a lot of people, and the young master is furious now. If we kill Tang Wei, the young master will be satisfied." "All right." The young man also pulled out his pistol from his waist. The distance between the two sides was getting closer. Tan Xiu released his spiritual sense and could already envelop the two people in the car. He could clearly see the two men holding their pistols with murderous looks on their faces. In an instant, he determined the identity of these two men. They were either from the Yao family or the Sun family. Similarly, they were enemies. "Brother Tang Wei, be careful. They should have guns in their hands," whispered Tan Xiu. "Don't worry. They won't shoot easily since they're monitoring us," said Tang Wei. Tan Xiu sighed inwardly. Looking at their appearance, how could they not shoot? They probably couldn't wait to shoot the two of them right now, right? "Give me your gun." Tan Xiu stopped and blocked in front of Tang Wei. Tang Wei hesitated for a moment before he took out his pistol and handed it to Tan Xiu. After receiving it, Tan Xiu moved sideways and stuffed the pistol into his pocket. Then he slowly walked toward the other side. The distance between them was getting closer and closer. When he was only 30 meters away from them, Tan Xiu suddenly stopped and moved lightning fast. In an instant, he grabbed the pistol and opened the safety as he aimed the muzzle at the two people in the SUV. Bang! Bang! A gunshot sounded as the bullet pierced the windshield and hit the head of the youth in the driver's seat and the heart of the man in the back seat. He had never practiced marksmanship, but his marksmanship was extremely accurate. In his view, shooting was the same as using concealed weapons, and he could easily control it. Tang Wei's expression changed. He had already seen the man in the driver's seat being shot. After dashing to the front of Tan Xiu, he hurriedly said, "Brother, why are you in such a hurry to shoot?" Tan Xiu patted his shoulder. Tang Wei's action warmed his heart as he said with a smile, "Let's go. Let's go back." Tang Wei pointed to the SUV and said with a confused expression, "Then someone will come to collect their corpses." Tan Xiu smiled lightly. "Let's circle around the villa complex. If we don't find any other enemies, we'll clean up the two enemies in the villa complex and immediately retreat." "The two enemies in the villa complex?" Tang Wei stared blankly as he looked at Tan Xiu with an increasingly strange expression. He and Tan Xiu came out together and quietly observed all the way. But they didn't find any other enemies, right? 10 minutes later, the duo didn't find any suspicious people. After returning to the villa complex, Tan Xiu stopped in a hidden corner and said, "Wait for me here. I'll be right back." Tang Wei opened his mouth. He wanted to follow Tan Xiu, But he didn't know the situation and was afraid of dragging Tan Xiu down. In the end, he could only nod silently. After a while, Tan Xiu returned to Tang Wei's side and said with a smile, "I've dealt with those two guys who peeped at our villa with binoculars. Let's go. Tell everyone to evacuate immediately." Tang Wei nodded silently. The gap. Ever since Tan Xiu came to Guangyang with him, he realized that there was a huge gap between them through Tan Xiu's actions. Quickly, more than a dozen cars left the Red Maple Villa complex at lightning speed. After meeting up with Shuejie and the others behind the villa complex, they headed toward the direction of Hongpa district. Tan Xiu's car, however, stopped on the side of the road after driving for more than 10 kilometers. He released his spiritual sense and quietly observed the cars behind. After staying there for a few minutes and finding no cars following them, he sped up and caught up with the motorcade in front. 20 minutes later, some distance away from Hongpa district, cars were parked on the side of the road. Aside from the driver, the others got off the cars. After the cars turned around and left, they took buses or taxis and rushed toward the factory in Hongpa district. Now there were electronic eyes everywhere on the highway. With the ability of the Yao and Sun families, it was easy for them to find the whereabouts of these cars from the traffic bureau. Therefore, it was necessary to abandon the cars halfway and take other means of transportation to leave. 2 o'clock late at night. In the rented factory, more than a dozen rooms in the workers' dormitory were lit. Guasun had personally bought a lot of bedding, pots, bowls, ladles, and other daily necessities a few hours ago. Therefore, the residential area had been cleaned up by Tan Xiu and the others. Young Master Xiu were done. Li Xiaojie, along with more than a dozen strong men, came to Tan Xiu's smoke-filled conference room. Tan Xiu nodded and pointed to the table and chairs at the side, motioning him to sit down. Then he slowly asked, "How did you deal with those cars?" "We threw them all near the traffic police brigade in Guanqing," said Li Xiaojie. A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth as he nodded and said, "Well done. Now it's time for us to take the initiative. Have a good rest today. I'll draw up an action plan by tomorrow afternoon at the latest." "All right." Shuejie, Tang Wei, and Li Xiaojie nodded in the conference room. "Aunt Shui, I'm afraid you'll have to work hard for a while," said Tan Xiu. "I need to know the specific business of the Yao and Sun families in Guangyang, as well as the address of their company and the list of their members. I want to see it before 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon." Shuejie nodded and said, "I know more about this. Leave it to me." Tan Xiu nodded. He then looked at Tang Wei and said, "You stay here and keep watch. Immediately arrest any suspicious person who approaches this factory. If anyone resists, kill them on the spot." "Understood." Tang Wei nodded heavily. Tan Xiu looked at Li Xiaojie and said, "Come with me to Fukang province tomorrow. I'll personally visit the Bai family's patriarch." "Understood." Li Xiaojie immediately replied. After Tan Xiu arranged everything, the three of them left the conference room. In the corridor outside the conference room, Hei Long leaned on the wall and smoked. He now thoroughly understood that what Tan Xiu said before was true. If Tan Xiu wanted to, he could easily pinch him to death, just like pinching an ant. He had secretly observed those 40 to 50 strong men. They were all experts, and he could feel the aura of a soldier from them. However, he still had some worries inside. Through the actions of Tan Xiu and these people, he found that Tan Xiu wanted to do something big, and it was very likely that he would fight with someone. Although he couldn't guess who the other party was, the enemy who could make the Tang family act like they were facing a formidable enemy was absolutely very powerful. Furthermore, he still couldn't figure out why Tan Xiu looked for him. "Hei Long, Tan Xiu wants you to go in." After Shuejie walked out of the conference room, her eyes fell on Hei Long. Chapter 353. Black Dragon was shaken inwardly. He quickly nodded and walked toward the conference room. When he entered the conference room, he saw Tan Xiu sitting on a chair and smoking. He cautiously asked, "Young Master Tang, what's your order?" Tan Xiu pointed to the chair at the side and said, "Sit." "All right." Black Dragon's body was very tense. After sitting on the chair, he asked, "Young Master Tang, I've thought it through. I'll follow you from now on. If you tell me to go east, I'll never go south. If you tell me to go up to the sky, I'll never dare to fall down. If there's anything you want me to do, please don't hesitate to tell me. As long as this black dragon can do it, I'll do it even if I have to risk my life. What I want you to do is very simple, Tan Xiu said. Hongpa district is your territory. You've been operating here for so many years, so I believe your information channels are very well informed, right? That's right, said Black Dragon confidently. Although I only have more than 20 trusted subordinates, I still have a lot of little brothers under me. Even many small forces have a very complicated relationship with us. If you want me to inquire about some information, it'll be very easy. Your task is to send people to watch all the streets within a radius of 10 kilometers around the factory, as well as all the unknown strangers. Tan Xiu nodded. Report to me immediately once there's any situation. I won't hide it from you. Although I'm a descendant of the Tang family, I've met an opponent this time. The opponent's strength is very strong, and it's not much worse than our Tang family. Therefore, Guangyang and Fukang are the places where our Tang family and the opponent will compete. Hongpa district will be our base camp in the future. Black Dragon's eyes lit up as he asked, Boss, can you tell me who our enemy is? The Yao family in the imperial capital and the Sun family in Guangyang, said Tan Xiu lightly. Black Dragon couldn't help but gasp. He had never heard of the Yao family in the imperial capital, but he was very clear about the Sun family in Guangyang. This Sun family was a huge force that could absolutely be ranked in the top 5 among the major families in Guangyang. Don't be surprised. Although our Tang family and these two families are in the game, it's only limited to Guangyang and Fukang, said Tan Xiu. The outcome of a small-scale game won't affect our family too much. As for you, since I've chosen you, I will ensure your safety. Regardless of whether I win or lose this time, I will give you great benefits when I leave Guangyang province. Heilong's suspenseful heart relaxed a lot. He straightened his chest and said, Young Master Tang, I, Heilong, am your man in life and your ghost in death. I'll do whatever you want me to do. Tan Xiu said with a smile. If you do well and perform well, you'll be rewarded. My Tang family has won this game, and your development in Guangyang will no longer be limited to a small place like Hongpa district. Do you understand what I mean? Black Dragon's eyes lit up and he nodded heavily. Understood. Tan Xiu waved his hand and said, Go. When he returned, he immediately began to make arrangements. I need to ensure the safety of our base camp, so your men are very important. Yes. As Heilong got up and was about to leave, his footsteps suddenly paused. He hesitated for a moment and asked, Young Master Tang, may I take the liberty to ask something? The Jingjing Internet Cafe's boss Guasun he. I won't hide it from you. He's from the Fukang province's Huang family. Moreover, he's also an intelligence agent sent by the Huang family, Tan Xiu said lightly. I have a special relationship with the Huang family, so I asked them to help me. If you want to prove your ability, then you must do better than Guasinor. Heilong instantly felt the pressure. He was very clear about Tan Xiu's meaning. Aside from his men, there was also the Huang family's intelligence agent in Hongpa district. He knew what kind of existence the Fukang province's Huang family was. It was one of the largest families in Fukang province. The details Tan Xiu revealed to him made him feel the pressure, but at the same time, he was also a bit excited. After all, the Tang family's chances of winning would increase several times with the Huang family's help. Young Master Tang, I won't let you down. Along with Heilong's departure, Tan Xiu walked out of the conference room and spoke to Li Xiaojie, who was waiting outside. Send someone to keep an eye on him. I don't want any problems to crop up because of him. Li Xiaojie nodded and said, I'll send the best investigative experts to keep an eye on him. The night passed without any words. Early the next morning, Tan Xiu left the factory with Li Xiaojie and rushed to Fukang province. On the way, he contacted Guasun and asked him to help him buy more than a dozen second-hand cars. Fukang province, Zhou City. It was Tan Xiu's first time coming to this city. He found that this city was not much inferior to Shanghai. There were high-rise buildings and a continuous stream of vehicles on the wide streets. 10 o'clock in the morning, Tan Xiu arrived at the Huang family in Zhou City. Since the Huang family had a very strong power in Fukang province, They had occupied a large piece of land and built the Huang family's manor. When the car arrived at the Huang family's gate, it was stopped by the security guards at the gate. "Who are you? This is a private residential area. Outsiders are not allowed to enter." Upon seeing that Tan Xiu and Li Xiaojie came in a taxi, the security guard immediately said in a deep voice. After sending the taxi away, Tan Xiu looked at the security guard and said, "Tell Huang Jinfu that Tan Xiu has come to visit." The security guard frowned and looked at Tan Xiu with an unfriendly expression. In the entire Fukang province, there were not many people who dared to call their patriarch by his name. However, he could faintly feel that Tan Xiu had a special temperament. Even Li Xiaojie, who was next to Tan Xiu, had a military temperament. He immediately said, "Wait." After saying that, he picked up the walkie-talkie and contacted the Huang family's manor's security captain. 5 minutes later, Huang Jinfu hurried to the manor's gate with 4 or 5 core members of the Huang family. When he saw the 2 people outside the gate, he instantly determined which one was Tan Xiu. "You are Mr. Tang Tan Xiu?" Huang Jinfu's posture was very low and his tone was full of respect. "You're too polite, Patriarch Huang." "I'm Tan Xiu," said Tan Xiu with a smile. Huang Jinfu's eyes lit up. He couldn't hide the excitement on his face as he respectfully said, "I got Guosen's report yesterday and knew that you would come today. Please come in quickly. I've already prepared some good tea." Tan Xiu nodded and walked into the Huang family's manor's gate. The 4 security guards at the gate were dumbfounded as they looked at the back of Tan Xiu and Huang Jinfu. Never in their dreams did they expect that the young man who came in a taxi would make the patriarch treat him with such an attitude. Who's this young man? The patriarch is actually so respectful in front of this young man. Isn't this too strange? Yeah. Never in my dreams have I ever thought that there would be someone in this world who can make our patriarch treat him with such an attitude. Who exactly is this young man? Powerful people are always very low-key. I've learned something new today. Fortunately, we didn't disrespect him, else we would have been severely taught by the patriarch. 2 sightseeing cars were parked inside the Huang family's manor's gate. Under Huang Jinfu's enthusiastic greeting, the 2 of them boarded one of the sightseeing cars, while Li Xiaojie and several other members of the Huang family boarded the other one. "Mr. Tang, you coming to our Huang family in person really brings light to our humble abode. I've already informed all the core members of the family yesterday, and they are all waiting inside," said Huang Jinfu with a smile. "Patriarch Huang, we're not outsiders, so you don't have to be so polite," said Tan Xiu with a smile. Huang Jinfu's eyes lit up as he repeatedly nodded and said, "That's right. We're not outsiders. I've been wanting to visit you ever since I heard that the Everlasting Feast Hall has a new owner. I didn't expect that you would come to our Huang family first." "I came to your Huang family this time because I have something to ask of you," said Tan Xiu. "You're wrong, Mr. Tang," said Huang Jinfu with a stern expression. "You can tell me whatever you want. Let's not mention that Boss Gu is my savior. My family owes the Everlasting Feast Hall a lot of favors. I once told Boss Gu that my Huang family wouldn't exist without the Everlasting Feast Hall's help. If there's anything you need, just say the word. My Huang family will do our best to help you even if we have to exhaust all of our power. If so, then I'll thank you first." Tan Xiu nodded. "I'll tell Xiaoxue about it later, so that the relationship between the Huang family and the Everlasting Feast Hall can be closer." Huang Jinfu's body trembled as an intense ecstasy rose inside. However, from Tang Xiu's words he could also hear the hidden meaning behind it. Xiaoxue? What was the relationship between Tan Xiu and Gu Xiaoxue? Quickly, the 2 sightseeing cars arrived at the Huang family's main building. Under Huang Jinfu's enthusiastic greeting, Tan Xiu was greeted by a group of core members of the Huang family as they came to the reception room inside. After greeting the Huang family's members, Tan Xiu directly said, "Patriarch Huang, shall we find a quiet place to talk?" Huang Jinfu knew that Tan Xiu wanted to talk to him about some serious matters, so he immediately said, "Let's go to my study room. No one will disturb us there." The antique study room was exquisitely and elegantly decorated. Aside from a large number of books on the bookshelves, there were also 4 treasures of the study on the table, a writing brush, ink, paper, and inkstone. When Tan Xiu's eyes moved from the bookshelf to another shelf full of handicrafts, his eyes suddenly froze. That's an intense flame stone? Tan Xiu's heart skipped a few times. He came to the front of the shelf and reached out to take the intense flame stone carved in the shape of a lion. Huang Jinfu came over and smilingly said, "This stone lion carving is pretty good, isn't it? It's made by our domestic master carver, Huang Baiqing." Gently stroking the intense flame stone, Tan Xiu slowly turned his head to look at Huang Jinfu and seriously said, "The number of people sent by the Huang family to the Everlasting Feast Hall will double every 3 years. How about giving this stone lion to me?" Huang Jinfu's eyes lit up and said without hesitation, "Mr. Tang, you can take it if you like it." In his heart, at this time he was overjoyed. It was because he never dreamed that a beautifully carved stone lion could actually double the number of people sent by his Huang family to the Everlasting Feast Hall every 3 years. Previously, only 3 people could be sent every 3 years, but now it was doubled to 6 people. Although almost all of them died every year, the remaining ones were all elites, the mainstay of the Huang family's armed forces. Today, I present the second chapter. Since Jingye has to go out during the day and has no access to computers and the internet, the third chapter can only be updated at night. Please forgive me, brothers and sisters. Chapter 354. Tan Xiu and Huang Jinfu were also in a contented mood. After taking a seat on the sofa in the study, Tan Xiu put the fierce flame rock aside and began to talk about serious matters. "Patriarch Huang, you know that I'm the owner of the Everlasting Feast Hall. But I also have another identity, which I believe you've already guessed." A strange light flashed in Huang Jinfu's eyes as he said, "You and the Tang family in the imperial capital." "That's right. I'm also a member of the Tang family," said Tan Xiu. "Actually, when you asked me to help you investigate the deputy director of the Starlight Group's finance department, I already guessed it," said Huang Jinfu. "Right now, the Tang family and the Yao family are fighting openly and covertly in Guangyang and Fukang, and the Starlight Group's headquarters building was burned down. According to the investigation of my Huang family's intelligence system, it was done by the Sun family." "That's right. It was done by the Sun family," said Tan Xiu. "Furthermore, the Tang family and the Yao family are now at a disadvantage in the fight. That's why I personally came to Guangyang and Fukang to deal with the matter here." "Mr. Tang, please speak your mind," said Huang Jinfu without hesitation. "When I guessed that you're a member of the Tang family, I already issued an order for the Huang family's armed forces to assemble, and all the major companies are ready. As long as you say it, the Huang family and the Tang family will fight side by side." Tan Xiu got up and solemnly said, "Patriarch Huang, I won't say any more words of gratitude. We'll have plenty of time in the future, and I won't let the Huang family's efforts be in vain." Huang Jinfu also got up and smilingly said, "This is what we should do." After the two men sat down, Huang Jinfu continued, "Mr. Tang, please tell us. What do you want us to do?" "I need the specific information on the Yao family, the Sun family of Guangyang, and the Yang family of Fukang," said Tan Xiu. "Also, I hope the Huang family's intelligence system there can provide me with all the information I need and keep in touch with me at all times." "I'll give you the order." Huang Jinfu nodded and said, "Also, I'll give you the contact information of the Huang family's chief in Guangyang." "For the time being, I only need the Huang family's information," said Tan Xiu. "What about the armed forces, Mr. Tang?" asked Huang Jinfu quickly. "As far as I know, the Fukang province's Yang family has also trained a lot of martial arts experts. Even more than a dozen martial arts schools were established by the Yang family. The person in charge of the martial arts center, as well as many instructors, are all very important armed forces of the Yang family. According to the information I got, the Yangs didn't send many people to Guangyang." Tan Xiu said, "I'm afraid that the person in charge of the Yao clan intends to eliminate all the forces of our Tang clan in Guangyang province, and then officially use the manpower of the Yang clan to eliminate the forces of our Tang clan in Fukang province. Therefore, the Sun family in Guangyang is the one that needs to be dealt with in advance." "I see." Huang Jinfu nodded. "In short, Whenever you want our Huang family to make a move, just let us know. Tan Xiu nodded and said, there is another matter that I'm afraid I'll have to trouble Patriarch Huang with. Please speak. Patriarch Huang said. As far as I know, family head Huang and the number one figure in Guangyang should be old classmates, right? Tan Xiu said. I heard that you two have a good relationship. That's right. Huang Jinfu said. My Tang family's close partner, the Bai family's patriarch of Guangyang province, has been suspended from his post for investigation and has been sent to the detention center by the Yao and Sun families, Tan Xiu said. I hope Patriarch Huang can contact your old classmate and help me rescue him. Furthermore, the news of him being investigated has yet to spread, so I hope he can be restored to his post. Huang Jinfu frowned and forced a smile. This matter is very difficult to handle, unless what? Tan Xiu asked. Unless I promise him that he will send a quota to the Everlasting Feast Hall every year, Huang Jinfu said. All these years, he has been asking me which force trained those experts of the Huang family. I don't dare to reveal the Everlasting Feast Hall, so I've never answered him. Promise him. Tan Xiu touched his chin and said. With a solemn expression, Huang Jinfu nodded and said, if I promise him, I dare guarantee that he and his family will use all their forces to protect the Bai family's patriarch. Although their family has a strong force in Guangyang province, they lack real experts. Otherwise, their family will probably surpass our Huang family. Then I'll wait for your good news, Patriarch Huang. Tan Xiu stood up and said. Huang Jinfu nodded. Upon seeing Tan Xiu's action, he quickly said, Mr. Tang, I've already asked someone to prepare lunch. You see, I appreciate your kindness. Tan Xiu shook his head. I must return to Guangyang as soon as possible. Seeing that Tan Xiu had already made up his mind, Huang Jinfu no longer urged him to stay. However, there was a mystery in his heart that had yet to be solved. Seeing that Tan Xiu was about to leave, he steeled his heart and accompanied Tan Xiu to go outside. He then asked in a low voice, Mr. Tang, may I ask you something? What is your relationship with Boss Gu? Patriarch Huang, perhaps you will know it one day in the future, said Tan Xiu calmly. Huang Jinfu could only force a wry smile inwardly. Although Tan Xiu's words were tactful, it was clear that he didn't want to tell him. Given Tan Xiu's identity, he didn't dare to continue asking. Others might not know how terrifying the Everlasting Feast Hall was, but he was perfectly aware of it. The Huang family was already one of the top big families in Fukang province with a deep heritage. But compared to the Everlasting Feast Hall, the gap was probably more than 10 times. If the Everlasting Feast Hall wanted to exterminate his Huang family, even if they only dispatched a small number of people, it was very likely that all the members of the Huang family would be exterminated overnight. Huang Jinfu didn't get the answer, but he was still very satisfied inwardly. Tan Xiu's promise made him happy. He could now imagine that the Huang family would have many more experts than the present 10 years later. A family. What was the most important thing? Of course, it was military force. Although power and wealth were also very important, it was nothing compared to military force. In today's era, the real rich and powerful families had absolute armed forces and were worthy of their name. At noon, Tan Xiu returned to Dongguan City's Hongpa district. After entering the factory, Tang Wei quickly greeted him and said, Brother, there's an outsider here. He said that he received an order from the Huang family's patriarch to come here to find you. I know. He's called Huang Bingcheng. Tan Xiu nodded. A strange light flashed in Tang Wei's eyes as he asked, Brother, how did you do it? Why did the Huang family from Fukang province come here? What's your relationship with the Huang family? I have some relationship with the Huang family's patriarch. Tan Xiu said with a smile. You know that I personally visited the Huang family's patriarch today. I've borrowed the Huang family's intelligence network in Guangyang for the time being. Raising his thumbs up, Tang Wei praised. Brother, I admire you more and more now. Although I know you're powerful, I was a bit surprised when first Grandpa gave you full authority over the matters in Guangyang and Fukang province. But now I understand. You're more useful than first uncle here. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, Don't talk nonsense. Where's Huang Bingcheng? Take me to see him. All right. Tang Wei grinned. Shortly after, Tan Xiao saw Huang Bingqing in the conference room. He was a middle-aged man who looked gentle and had a scholarly aura. You're Huang Bingqing, right? The chief supervisor of the Huang family's intelligence network in Guangyang? I'm Tan Xiao. We've contacted each other by phone before. A respectful look appeared on Huang Bingqing's face as he said, Mr. Tang, I'm Huang Bingqing. The patriarch has ordered that our Huang family's intelligence network in Guangyang has been fully activated. We're also paying close attention to the movements of the Yao and Sun families. Although I dare not say that we'll be able to discover any of their movements in time, but as long as they do something big, it's absolutely impossible to hide from the eyes of our intelligence personnel. Tan Xiao slightly nodded and said with a smile, What are you going to do next? Are you going to stay here? Or somewhere else? Shall we contact each other by phone? I'll stay at the original place, Huang Bingqing said. But I'll inform you as soon as I receive the information. I'll trouble you then. Tan Xiao nodded. It's no trouble at all. It's what we should do, Huang Bingqing quickly said with a smile. After Tan Xiao sent Huang Bingqing away, Shuejie gave the information she had sorted out to Tan Xiao. This information was what she knew, as well as the business information of the Yao and Sun families that she had sent people to investigate. In fact, it also included the specific list of the Sun family's members, the people in charge of the business, the officials, and so on. After reading it, Tan Xiao's expression turned a bit solemn. He found that the power of the Sun family in Guangyang was indeed very strong. Not to mention how much force their family possessed, just the strength of the 3 listed companies in Guangyang province was shocking. Brother, I've read this information. The business matters are very easy to solve. If we're ruthless, we can make the business of the Yao and Sun families temporarily unable to continue. But the force of the Sun family can't be underestimated. Coupled with the Yao family's force, we're not their match at all. Tang Wei's expression was a bit solemn as he spoke in a low voice while stroking his chin. You're right. Tan Xiao nodded. This is just the force on the surface that Anti-Shui has investigated. Who knows how many armed forces they have hidden in the dark. It seems that I still need to find some helpers. Tang Wei's expression moved as he quickly asked, Where are you going to find helpers? Tan Xiao faintly smiled. He took out his mobile and dialed a number. After the call was connected, he said in a deep voice, I need 10 experts to immediately rush to Guan City's Hongpa district. I'll send a short message to the specific address and send it to your mailbox. Yes, boss. The other party replied very neatly. Today the 3rd chapter is here, and there are 2 more chapters in the evening. Brothers and sisters, please give me your recommendation and monthly votes. Chapter 355. Tan Xiao hung up the phone and looked at Tang Wei and Shuejie's curious expressions. He then lightly smiled and said, Don't worry. Although I only called 10 people over, they can match up to 50 or even 100 people. Our next operation must be successful. Are they from the Huang family? Shuejie probed. No, they're my people. Tan Xiao shook his head. I don't quite understand what you mean, Tan Xiao. Shuejie was confused. You said your people? Have you also trained some people? Yeah, I have indeed trained some people. Tan Xiao lightly smiled. I've already started my business before I return to my family. It would be very difficult to continue my business if I don't have my own people. You've actually started a business before? Shuejie was surprised. Anti-Shui, this matter is known only to some people in the family. In fact, my brother had already set up a company and started his business before he was found by his family, and was still in high school. Don't underestimate him. Even the famous Wuxia, the best gold manager in the world, is helping my brother. Wuxia. Shuejie exclaimed. Tan Xiao, so you're the magnificent Tang Corporation's boss. That's right. Tan Xiao laughed. The magnificent Tang Corporation is indeed my company. But it's just started and I've invested a lot of money, so I haven't gotten any returns yet. At this moment, the way Shuejie looked at Tan Xiao was completely different from before. She admired Tan Xiao's resourcefulness and martial prowess. But when it came to business, She thought that she was much better than Tan Xiao. However, she never thought that Tan Xiao turned out to be the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss, and could even invite Kong Xia to work for him. Who was Kong Xia? She was the gold manager that all businessmen in China yearned for even in their dreams. Her fame in the business circle was even more resounding than those big bosses of listed companies. Amazing! Even though Shuejia had thousands of words to say in her heart, in the end, she could only say one word. Tan Xiao let out a faint smile and said, "You guys go rest first. I need to think about it, and then formulate a battle plan. If there's any news from the Huang family tonight, we'll take action tonight." Shuejia asked in surprise, "Are you going to take the initiative to attack?" "Offense is the best defense in the world." Tan Xiao nodded. "Even though we won a small victory yesterday, the Yao and Sun families would never believe that we would take the initiative to attack in such a situation. This is the best time for us to attack." Shuejia and Tang Wei exchanged glances and nodded. They felt that what Tan Xiao said made a lot of sense. In a war, one had to catch the enemy off guard and attack them when they least expect it. 2 hours later, Tan Xiao walked out of the room. Based on his understanding of the forces of the Yao family and the Sun family, he formulated a battle plan. Although the plan couldn't be said to be perfect, Tan Xiao was confident that the Yao and Sun families would suffer a huge blow as long as the operation started. "Tan Xiao, we have 10 people here." Shuejia, who had been waiting outside the room, quickly reported when she saw Tan Xiao come out. Tan Xiao nodded and handed the battle plan to her, saying, "Take a look at it first. If you think there's no problem, we'll act according to this plan. I'll go see them first." Immediately, Tan Xiao came outside the building and looked at the 10 people lined up in front of the building. Their bodies were as straight as javelins, and he secretly nodded inside. "Who's Gulang?" "I'm Gulang." "Greetings, boss." A lean man stepped forward and respectfully replied. Tan Xiao nodded and said, "I'm very satisfied that you came fast. Go rest first and wait for my order tonight." "Understood." Gulang replied in a deep voice. In the evening, Huang Bingqing sent someone to deliver an intelligence report, which was more detailed than the one collected by Shuejia. After Tan Xiao and the others observed it, they simply revised the previously formulated battle plan. "Brother, we're all assembled. We're waiting for your order." Tang Wei strode in from the outside and reported in a deep voice. Tan Xiao nodded. After coming outside the building, he looked at the 5 rows of 10 people and nodded with satisfaction, saying, "You've all seen the battle plan I formulated. Tonight, we'll be divided into 3 groups. Li Xiaojia will lead a group of 20 people to attack the first and second targets. Gulang will lead a group of 20 people to attack the third and fourth targets. I'll personally lead a group of 10 people to attack the fifth and sixth targets. Tonight, our mission is to uproot the 6 strongholds of the Yao family and the Sun family as fast as lightning and destroy their businesses. The vehicles have all been prepared, and the weapons have all been prepared. We'll use sneak attacks to reduce casualties. Before the enemy notices, try not to use your gun if you can. The time to attack is 10 p.m. After you're in position, investigate the specific situation of the targets and report to me at any time if there's any abnormality." Shortly after, Tan Xiao waved his arm. Li Xiaojia and Gu Lang took the 2 teams and quickly drove away from the factory. Tang Wei stood beside Tan Xiao and seriously said, "Brother, I must participate in the battle. I'll follow you. You're a man of the Tang family and so am I. You can go to the battlefield and kill the enemy, so can I. If we all go, who will take charge here?" Tan Xiao asked. "Tan Xiao, let Tang Wei go with you." Shuejia said. "Don't worry, I'll take care of this place," Shuejia said. Tan Xiao was silent for a moment before he nodded and said, "If that's the case, then come with us. But you must stay by my side and immediately evacuate if you encounter any danger." "No problem." Tang Wei revealed a satisfied smile. Harbor City Dynasty Nightclub. The younger brother of the Sun family's patriarch, Sun Feilong, was drinking with several friends. They were surrounded by a group of girls who served them well. Harbor City is a good place. It's much better than our Northwest. Big bro Sun, we've known each other for more than 10 years, right? We've said that we'd come here many times, but there's always something to deal with and we can't leave. You didn't disappoint us this time. A middle-aged man with a shaved head and a gold chain around his neck hugged a girl and laughed loudly. A faint smile appeared on the corner of Sun Feilong's mouth as he said, "It's indeed been more than 10 years. But you're such busy people. How can you spare time to take care of me? If it weren't for our Sun family getting involved in the dispute between the Yao and Tang families, I'm afraid you wouldn't have come here until now." Ha ha ha, hee hee. The few burly men invited by Sun Feilong smiled as they raised their wine glasses. Bam! The door was kicked open as 6 big men with pistols rushed into the room and opened fire. The middle-aged man in the front had very accurate marksmanship and fired extremely fast. 2 of the 4 men in the room were killed by him. Sun Feilong's group of 4 didn't even have the chance to resist and were all killed. The 6 big men didn't kill those women. After quickly killing Sun Feilong and the others, they immediately withdrew from the room. Outside the door, 4 bodies were lying in the corridor, and dozens of people were killed everywhere in the Dynasty nightclub. Most of them were killed with knives. Retreat. Hurry to the second target. Li Xiaojie glanced at the big man who had just killed the most people, and said in a deep voice, "Harbor City, Red Star Bath Center." The business of the bath center was very good today as many customers came to look for women. A steward of the Sun family was sitting in his office and looking at the accounts. A beautiful girl sat next to him, stirring the coffee in her hand, and looking at the steward with a smile. 10 o'clock. Many customers rushed to the gangsters in the nearby bath center. They were especially ruthless and almost killed people with their knives. In just a minute or two, dozens of gangsters were killed. Bam! The office door was kicked open. As a figure flashed in, the dagger in Gu Lang's hand had accurately pierced the throat of the steward of the Sun family. In the girl's scream, Gu Lang directly knocked her out and turned to leave. Harbor City Golden Station. The private club that occupied a large area was the territory controlled by the Sun family. Usually an outstanding young man of the Sun family, Sun Xiaoyu, was in charge here. And here, there were also many armed forces of the Sun family. Most of them were experts trained by the Sun family and had real kung fu. The backyard of the club was where these experts usually lived and trained, and it was not open to the public. Tonight, it was very quiet here. Because the Sun family had recently followed the Yao family and the Tang family, this group of martial arts practitioners of the Sun family had rested early, conserving their energy and waiting for the master's order. Sun Xiaoyu didn't rest. At the moment, he was lying on a woman's body and exercising. Puff! A sharp Mitsubishi army knife was inserted from the back of Sun Xiaoyu's heart. At the moment when the Mitsubishi army knife was pulled out, Sun Xiaoyu's complexion changed. After he suddenly raised his head, he was shocked to find a person standing beside the bed, a very young man. "Who are you?" He quickly turned over and cried out involuntarily. A smile outlined on the corner of Tang Xiu's mouth. Through his spiritual sense, he observed the dozens of Sun family's experts in the vicinity being killed one by one in their sleep. He then let out an indifferent smile and said, "Sun Xiaoyu, you're the first batch of Sun family members to die. Don't worry, there will be more Sun family members to follow you. I promise that soon, the Sun family will disappear from Guangyang province and will never appear again." Before his voice faded away, the Mitsubishi army knife in Tanxio's hand shot out like lightning. After piercing Sun Xiaoyu's eyebrows, he kicked the abdomen of the naked woman who was trying to take out a gun from under the pillow. After she was hit, Tanxio dodged and pulled out the Mitsubishi army knife from between Sun Xiaoyu's eyebrows and pierced her heart. Enemy. Regardless of gender, Tanxio was very clear that sometimes, women were more terrible than men. Suddenly, his complexion changed slightly, because in the observation of his divine sense, after the 2 assassins killed one person in a room, they were detected by the other person. They dodged the sneak attack and then took out a gun and began to fight back. Today the 4th chapter is updated. The 5th chapter will be presented later. A new week, weekly asking for a recommendation vote. Chapter 356. Tanxio's speed was extremely fast. After the gunshots woke up the rest of the Sun family's martial artists, he shuttled back and forth in the corridor like a ghost. The doors opened one after another, and the strong men with weapons rushed out from the inside, only to be killed in an instant. As the saying goes, kill a man in 10 steps. Not only did Tan Xiu do it, but he did it even better. It was a corridor that was tens of meters long. When he sprinted from one end to the other, a total of 12 enemies had died in his hands. The fierce battle ended in a short time. After all the enemies in the clubhouse's backyard were killed, Tan Xiu and his team poured the prepared gasoline on the easily ignited places, causing the entire clubhouse to burn. Brother, it's done. Tang Wei came to the burning building with 2 bodyguards, and said with a smile on his face, "Well done." Tan Xiu nodded. The most important thing for us to do is not to expose our identities, so we must destroy the monitoring equipment at every target location. Let's go. We need to hurry to the 6th target location. Aren't we going to burn the clubhouse in front? Asked Tang Wei, confused. There are a lot of guests in the clubhouse. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "If we burn the clubhouse now, I'm afraid many outsiders will be implicated. After this battle, even if we don't burn this clubhouse, there won't be many people coming here to spend money in the future." Upon hearing it, Tang Wei nodded and smilingly said, "What you said makes sense. Fire is the most taboo for everyone. If I were to spend money here and a fire and murder happened, I'm afraid I'd rarely come here in the future." Shortly after, the group of 12 people quietly climbed over the wall and left. A faint smell of blood drifted in the air of Harbor City. The stars in the sky were unknowingly covered by the drifting dark clouds, and the whole world seemed to have fallen into a deep sleep. 6 locations. More than 200 experts nurtured by the Yao family and the Sun family were brutally killed on this night. 4 locations were the important warehouses of the Yao and Sun families' companies, which were completely burned down by the fire. Harbor City, River Bay Manor. At the window on the 2nd floor of the villa, Yao Xinhua's expression was ferocious as he fiercely smashed the crystal cup in his hand. A man and a woman stood in front of Yao Xinhua, not daring to breathe loudly. On the other side of the sofa, Topherson and Ai Murwei were smoking cigars and playing with the guns in their hands. Bang! The door was slammed open as a pale youth rushed into the room and hurriedly shouted, "Young master, the Mingding Group's HQ is on fire and 4 security guards in the monitoring room have been killed. All the samples stored by the company were burned. Most importantly, this is a new product that we have just developed. All the information and samples are inside. This time, our losses are huge." Yao Xinhua's pupils contracted and his body suddenly trembled a few times. He knew what the new product developed by Mingding Group was. It was a new drug to treat gout. This afternoon, the person in charge of developing the new product came to the headquarters with samples and research materials to introduce the details of the product to him. Damn it! Why did I leave those things at the headquarters? Yao Xinhua's heart was filled with regret and anger, and his ferocious expression was somewhat distorted. Ring 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 on the table, his phone rang. Yao Xinhua grabbed the phone and shouted without looking at the caller ID, "What's up?" "Young Master Yao, something big happened. Unidentified people attacked our Sun family's nightclub and bath center, causing heavy casualties. A large number of armed personnel of my Sun family were inside the Golden Post private club, but all of them were killed and the place was burned down. The Sun family's Sun Group's HQ was also burned and many security guards were killed. My younger brother, Sun Feilong, was also killed." The voice of the Sun family's patriarch, Sun Feilei, came out of the phone. Yao Xinhua opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. After holding back for a long while, he bitterly said, "Come to the River Bay Manor immediately. I'll be waiting for you." "All right," Sun Feilei replied and directly hung up the phone. Yao Xinhua was silent for a long while as the ferocious expression on his face slowly faded. Suddenly, a smile appeared on his face. After sitting back on the sofa, he muttered to himself, "Interesting. It's really interesting. This kind of action is not Tang Yunping's style. He can't do such a crazy thing. Who is it? Tang Wei. That brat is quite ruthless, but how could the Tang family investigate us so clearly?" Topherson, who was nestled on the sofa, suddenly raised his head and asked, Captain Yao, do you know this Tang Wei? Did he receive any harsh military training? Where did he receive any military training? Yao Xinhua shook his head. He's a big silk pants in the imperial capital, so he also managed some of the Tang family's businesses. But he's not a business person. At most, he practiced taekwondo, so his skills are a bit better than ordinary people. Then it's not him. Topherson shook his head. Chengbu Town's earth cabinet factory was attacked by an expert. That guy is very powerful. I'm afraid I don't have such a powerful skill. I've checked the wounds of the members who were killed, and many of them were killed with a single slash. Yao Xinhua's expression moved. He was well aware of Topherson's skill. Even Topherson was ashamed of his inferiority, which made him vigilant. Time fleeted by. Half an hour later, Sun Feilei arrived at the River Bay Manor with more than a dozen bodyguards. Patriarch Sun, have a seat. Yao Xinhua pointed to the opposite sofa and calmly said. Young Master Yao, my Sun family suffered a heavy loss tonight. Sun Feilei said bitterly. The Tang family seems to have gone crazy. They simply attacked our Sun family's territory without any scruples. What's most difficult for me to accept is that they know our Sun family's territory like the back of their hand. They quickly launched sneak attacks and then quickly retreated after succeeding. I didn't even have the time to rescue them. My Yao family was also attacked in 2 places and we lost a lot of people, said Yao Xinhua calmly. My Yao family's Mingding Group's HQ is no better than the Tang family's Starlight Group. You should have received the news when you came here, right? I received it. Sun Feilei nodded. Who did this to the Tang family? Yao Xinhua shook his head and said, I don't know. Tang Yimpeng has returned to Shusu province. The Red Maple Villa complex where they were originally stationed is now empty. The men I sent to spy on them have also been killed. I don't even know where their lair is now. Sun Feilei furrowed his brows and anxiously asked, Then what should we do now? We've suffered such a big loss. Don't tell me we're just going to sit and wait for death? Yao Xinhua's face turned cold as he said in a deep voice, Do you think sitting and waiting for death is my character? But we've lost their traces, so the first task is to find them. Then we must gather all our forces and destroy them. Sun Feilei solemnly said, I've issued a death order to find the murderers at all costs. My Sun family's intelligence network is now operating at high speed. As long as they're still in Guangyang, our Sun family will be able to find them. Yao Xinhua nodded and said, The Tang family's people came prepared tonight, causing us to suffer huge losses. Let's count the losses first. Then we'll gather our forces. As long as we can find their traces, I'll personally lead the attack. We can't let this matter rest until we've eliminated all the Tang family's forces in Guangyang. We must uproot the Tang family's forces in Guangyang, said Sun Feilei. Otherwise I won't be able to eat and sleep well. Young Master Yao, just wait for my good news. Yao Xinhua nodded and said, I understand your anger. I'm also very angry. But we can't let our anger get to our heads. Tan Xiu has produced a powerful figure. Although I still don't know who he is, I really want to play with him. In fact, sometimes having a weak opponent is also a very boring thing. Sun Feilei forced a smile and said, But the price is too big just for fun. Yao Xinhua confidently said, Tonight was an accident. The other party has gained such a big advantage tonight, so I'm afraid they'll hole up and won't make any big moves for the time being. That's right, hurry up and find a way to convict Bai Yang. As long as he's convicted, it'll be easier for us to clean up the Bai family. Getting rid of the Bai family can be considered as chopping off one of their arms. Young Master Yao, if tonight's incident didn't happen, convicting Bai Yang would be very easy. As long as my Sun family continues to put pressure on him, it can be done in the next few days. But tonight's incident is too big. I believe it will cause a sensation in the entire Guangyang province. I'm afraid that even those major forces in the country will know about it. At this time, let alone my Sun family, even those at the top won't pay attention to Bai Yang's matter. Yao Xinhua frowned and slowly said, Since there's no way to convict him for the time being, then bribe the people in the detention center to make Bai Yang suffer a bit. If it doesn't work, then directly kill him. Just say that he committed suicide to escape punishment. I believe I don't need to teach you how to fake the scene, right? Sun Feilei's eyes lit up as he nodded and said, "Rest assured, young Master Yao. I guarantee that Bai Yang won't live until tomorrow night." Early in the morning, Guan City, Hongpa District. Not long after Tan Xiao and his men returned to the factory, Li Xiaojie and Gu Lang also came back with their men. The 5 of them, including Tang Wei and Shuejia, gathered in the conference room in the building. "Tell me, how's the mission?" Tan Xiao beamed as he lit a cigarette, and said after taking a deep puff. Li Xiaojie grinned and said, "It's been a long time since I've killed to my heart's content. We've eliminated a total of 62 enemies tonight, while only 2 of our men were killed and 4 were injured. The injured brothers are not in danger. We've eliminated 74 enemies, while only 3 of our men were injured and no one died," said Gu Lang indifferently. Li Xiaojie stared blankly for a moment before a bitter smile appeared on his face. He thought that the people he brought were the best, but compared to this lone wolf of mysterious origin, they were still a little worse. Today's 5 chapters have been released, and tomorrow we'll continue to release 5 chapters. Every spit is a nail. Since Quiet Night said that she'll release 10 chapters in 2 days, she'll definitely deliver the 10 chapters as scheduled. Brothers and sisters, I ask you to send your recommendation votes and monthly votes. Chapter 357. Tan Xiao nodded and said, "You did a good job. You killed so many enemies with a very small price. This is a great merit. My side also went smoothly. We killed nearly 100 people from the other side without any casualties. I'm afraid 1/3 of the Yao and Sun family's forces in Guangyang have been dealt with by us in tonight's operation." Tang Wei said with a smile, "I'm afraid First Grandpa and the others will be overjoyed if we send the results of tonight's battle back to the imperial capital." Extraordinary splendor rippled in Shuejia's eyes as a sense of worship rose inside her heart. That's right, the number of people who could make her worship these days could be counted on one's fingers. But after tonight's operation, she really had this feeling about Tan Xiao. Amazing. Valiant. These words seemed especially pale when used on Tan Xiao. Shuejia took a deep breath and said with a smile, "You did a great job. The effect is more than 10 times better than I expected. I originally thought that we would completely withdraw from Guangyang, but I didn't expect that under Tan Xiao's leadership, just 2 operations were enough to make the Yao and Sun families suffer. Tan Xiao, what are we going to do next?" "Hibernate and hunt," said Tan Xiao with a smile. Shuejia was confused and said, "I know about staying dormant, but tonight's operation was indeed a bit too big. If tonight's situation happens again, I'm afraid those top bigwigs in Guangyang won't be able to sit still and suppress us." "But what do you mean by hunting?" "Assassinate," Tan Xiao said with a smile. Shuejia's complexion slightly changed as she asked, "Who's the target? The Yao and Sun families?" "I need your cooperation to draw up a list of assassination targets." Tan Xiao nodded and said, "The Yao family's men who came to Guangyang, as well as the Sun family's members' information. If we want to end the battle in Guangyang as soon as possible, we must kill them and make them tremble in fear." Tang Wei heavily nodded and said, "That's right. Since they took the initiative to attack us, then we'll make them suffer. Now I hope the Yao family can send a large number of men, so that we can kill with more vigor." Tan Xiao shook his head and said, "What I hope is that we can end the game between the 2 families as soon as possible. I'm sure you're aware of the Tang family's current situation. If we really shed all pretense of cordiality with the Yao family, even if we can exterminate the Yao family, the Tang family will also suffer heavy losses. Once that happens, I'm afraid the other families in the country won't let go of this good opportunity to reap the benefits, right?" Tang Wei was startled, and then he nodded silently. "Grandfather said that our Tang family needs time the most right now. As long as we are given another 3 to 5 years, not to mention the Yao family, even if it is the top family in the country, our Tang family will dare to compete with them." Tan Xiao said, "That's right, it's time. In fact, the game between us and the Yao family is a situation where we harm others without benefiting ourselves. Therefore, in the following process of hunting, Not only do we have to kill as many enemies as possible, but we also have to obtain benefits. Moreover, I've decided to take Gulang and the others to Fukang province. Brother Tangwei, you stay here and wait for my dispatch at any time. This, Tangwei hesitated. Tangwei, since Tan Xiu has said so, just listen to him. Shuejie said. I believe you already know what he's capable of now. He'll be fine. Tangwei nodded helplessly. All right. Then I'll stay here. Shuejie looked at Tan Xiu and asked with a smile. What about me? Will I continue to stay here? Or, Aunt Shui, although the Starlight Group's HQ has been destroyed, there are still a lot of things to deal with in the company. I don't think it's appropriate for you to stay here and command remotely, Tan Xiu said. Therefore, I suggest you come with me to Fukang province and deal with the group's affairs in the branch there. You can rest assured that aside from your bodyguards, I'll also send 4 experts to protect you. Even if you encounter a large-scale sneak attack, I'm sure they can protect you. All right, Shuejie said with a smile. Immediately, with Shuejie's help, Tan Xiu combined the information from the Huang family and formulated an assassination list. On this assassination list, aside from the Yao and Sun families, there were also people from the Yang family in Fukang province. Furthermore, after the assassination in Guangyang province ended, Tan Xiu decided to immediately carry out a purge in Fukang province. Imperial capital, Tang family's ancestral residence. The 2 brothers, Tang Guoxing and Tang Guoshou, were discussing some matters. Tang Min, on the other hand, was pouring tea at the side, adding a few words from time to time. Ring ring ring. Tang Guoxing raised his brows and instantly thought of the problem in Guangyang province. Almost without hesitation, he grabbed his mobile and saw that it was a call from Tan Xiu. He immediately pressed the answer button. Xiu, it's so late and you still haven't rested? There's something I need to tell you, said Tan Xiu. What is it? Asked Tang Guosheng. Is there any unforeseen event in Guangyang? Tang Guosheng asked. More than 2 hours ago, I led some people to attack the Yao and Sun family's industries in Guangyang, as well as their armed forces, said Tan Xiu. Almost 1/3 of their forces in Guangyang were destroyed. What? Tang Guosheng abruptly stood up with disbelief in his eyes. Shocking. It was really too shocking. He simply couldn't believe his own ears. It must be noted that although the Yao family didn't have much power in Guangyang, the Sun family was the local snake in Guangyang. Destroying 1/3 of their forces at the same time? How big of a move was this? Tang Guosheng's lips squirmed a few times as he asked with a trembling voice. How did you do it, Xiu? With the intelligent support of our Tang and Huang families, said Tan Xiu. Then I called some of my men. We separately attacked 6 places of the enemy. Wasn't the HQ of our Tang family's Starlight Group burned down? I also burned down the buildings of the Yao family and the Sun family. You can rest assured that it was done very cleanly. Even if they know that we did it, they won't be able to find any evidence. Tang Guosheng burst into laughter and said, Good, good, good. Well done. You're the person in charge of our Tang family in Guangyang, so I only got the news now. But I think that old geezer of the Yao family has already gotten the news, right? Ha ha. I'm so happy, really happy. Grandpa, Shuejie will make a report about the specific situation and send it to you by email, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Anyways, I won't talk to you anymore. Wait a minute. Tang Guosheng quickly called out. Is there anything else? Asked Tan Xiu. Xiu, you may have achieved remarkable results tonight, but you must not underestimate the enemy, said Tang Guosheng. You and Xiaowei must immediately retreat if there are any unforeseen events. It's fine even if you lose Guangyang and Fukang. I understand, said Tan Xiu. Tang Guosheng pondered for a moment and asked again. What's your next plan? I've drawn up a list of assassination targets, said Tan Xiu. A small part of them are targeting the Yao and Sun families in Guangyang. Most of them are in Fukang. I'll rush to Fukang in 2 days at the latest to contend with the Yao, Sun and Yang families there. Will the Huang family in Fukang help us? Asked Tang Guosheng. I don't want the Huang family to get involved unless it's a last resort, said Tan Xiu. But if I can't handle it, the Huang family will help us even if they have to exhaust all of their family's power. Is that true? Tang Guosheng was shocked. Exhaust all of their family's power? How is that possible? Tang Guosheng was shocked. Grandpa, there are some things I won't tell you for the time being. I'm sure you'll know when the time is right, Tan Xiu said. Alright, I understand, Tang Guosheng said. He hung up the phone. Tang Min, who was at the side, quickly asked, Dad, what happened in Guangyang? Look, you're so happy that your mouth is crooked. With a face full of joy, Tang Guosheng said with a smile, Wait, you'll know soon. Xiao is indeed worthy to be my Tang family seed. Amazing, amazing. Tang Guoshou and Tang Min looked at each other and then forced a wry smile. Big brother, don't keep us guessing. Tell us first, what exactly happened? Xiao brought his men to eliminate 1/3 of the forces of the Yao and Sun families in Guangyang tonight, said Tang Guosheng with a grin. What? Heavens! Tang Guoshou and Tang Min abruptly stood up with disbelief on their faces as they stared at Tang Guosheng without blinking. I didn't lie to you, Tang Guosheng said with a smile. It was Xiao himself who called me. I believe he won't lie to me, Tang Guoshou excitedly said. Big brother, if what Xiao said is true then our Tang family has already reversed the situation in Guangyang, hasn't it? You must know that the Yao and Sun families have been plotting for many years, and their forces there are more than twice stronger than our Tang family. Now that they have suffered such a big loss, I'm afraid that old geezer of the Yao family will die of heartache. That's right. Tang Guosheng nodded and said with a smile. Even if our Tang family completely loses Guangyang, it's worth it with such a big loss from the Yao and Sun families. Imperial capital, Yao family's courtyard. Dog barks were occasionally heard in the tranquil courtyard. But inside the main room, the sound of things being smashed was particularly loud. Yao Qingzuan's old face was filled with anger. In front of him, 3 men and 2 women also wore angry expressions and remained silent. Dad, the statistics of our losses have come out. Yao Chengqing strode into the room with a thick stack of documents in his hand. Yao Qingzuan grabbed the thick stack of documents. As he flipped through them, his complexion turned uglier. When he finished reading the last page, he fiercely slammed the stack of documents on the table and angrily shouted, Did Xinhua not notice the Tang family's actions? Also, that damn Sun family. They're the local snake in Guangyang, and their intelligence network is very strong. Don't tell me they didn't notice any clues? Yao Chengqing forced a smile and said, The Tang family's forces in Guangyang have all disappeared. Xinhua thought that they were all hiding and wouldn't make a move against us at this time. Who would have thought? That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.